Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Toronto Committee of Adjustment, Scarborough District. Today is August 18, 2022. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx webinar. It's an online digital platform, so by watching on the YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to a panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is now called to. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on any application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by emails. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed. It's listed on the agenda. In terms of making your submissions, here are some rules. Where an application is contested, the agent or the applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's substantially revised to ensure that the new revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to receive the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals, either in support or in opposition to the application, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. We are certainly here to listen to your concerns. However, repeating the same comments will not advance your cause. If there are a number of speakers, we request that you select a spokesperson to advise the committee of the issues and the concerns you may have on any application. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into a committee for a decision. For the morning session, we will be hearing items from 1 to 17 in the order that it's listed on the agenda. For items 18 to 23, we will hear the items in the afternoon session, which is scheduled to start at 1:30 p.m. or shortly thereafter. Before we hear the first item, members of the committee, you have received the minutes of the last meeting. May I have a motion on confirmation of the minutes from the last hearing? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I move approval of the minutes for the July 21st Committee of Adjustment hearing.
May I have a seconder, please? Members Mohammed, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for approval.
All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried and the minutes of the last meeting have been confirmed and adopted. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items listed in the morning time slot? I see none. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Through the chair, in the morning session, we have 4 deferral requests.
We'll go one by one.
The first deferral request is for item 1, 208 Pitfield Road, deferral sine die at the request of the applicant to address concerns identified by community planning.
Thank you, Colin. Staff, do we have the agent online with us? Ronald Cow? Thank you. Ronald, you're with us?
Oh, hi, good morning.
Good morning. Ronald, so we have a request for deferral of your application. You want to defer to address the concerns that have been identified by community planning. Do you have any comment at this time?
Yeah, so we were only given notice of 2 days to address some of the concerns, so it wasn't enough time. Therefore, we're asking for deferral to be able to have adequate time to address the concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, do you have any concerns with this request for deferral? I see none. All right. If there are no questions or concerns, can I please have a motion? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I'll motion to defer this application, sine die, to allow the applicant to address concerns brought on by planning.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for deferral, so giving the time to the applicant to address the concerns of the community planning. The deferral is for sine die.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been deferred sine die.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, what is the next request of deferral, please?
Through the chair, it's item number 8, 72 Pharmacy Avenue, deferral sine die at the request of the applicant to address concerns identified by neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do we have the agent online with us, Rock Kim? This is item 8 for 72 Pharmacy Avenue. Rock, are you with us?
Yeah.
Good morning, Rock. So we have a request for deferral from you. You're requesting deferral to address concerns identified by neighbors. Could you please confirm, and do you have any comments?
No, we want to make the defer and then make a revision, discuss with the neighbor more about that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, you heard we have a request for deferral. Do you have any questions or concerns at this time? I see none. All right. If there are no questions or concerns, can I please have a motion on the request for deferral? This is 72 Pharmacy Avenue, item 8. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Rock. It's a good gesture. You are trying to resolve the concerns of your neighbors. This is very good. Madam Chair, I move the motion for deferral of item 8, sine die.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I second that motion for deferral.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been deferred sine die. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, what is the next request for deferral?
Through the chair, the next item for deferral is item number 11, 56 Trevorton Drive, deferral sine die to address concerns identified by transportation services at
Thank
the
you.
request of the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Staff, do we have the agent online with us? And that would be Enrique Valencia. Thank you. Enrique, you're with us?
Hello?
Hello. Good morning.
Hi, this is
Hi.
good morning. This is Enrique Valencia from Valencia Enterprises.
Okay.
I'm the agent for the property located at 56 Treverton Drive, and well, we're trying to request a deferral in order to address transportation concerns. We had an official from transportation previously on site, and due to his examination, we felt there was good reason to have this application submitted. So we'd like to address this before coming forward with the decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Enrique, for elaborating on the request for deferral. Members of the committee, do you have any questions or comments at this time on the request for deferral? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask the applicant if that new information from Transport has been submitted to the committee, and is it a positive referral?
Enrique, can you please respond?
As of now, yes, it is a positive referral. It's just he told us to go through this application.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to confirm, has anything further been submitted to the committee from Transport? Because that really does weigh into my decision-making about this application. And I'm not sure if planning staff or the Deputy Secretary Treasurer has further information on that.
Thank you, Member Nadini. Staff, could you please provide some comments here?
Through the chair, we do have a memo from Transportation Services recommending refusal. It's my understanding that upon receipt of that memo, the applicant wishes to defer the application to try to address the comments of Transportation Services, and they're trying to get in contact with Transportation Services.
Okay, so Member Nadini, just to clarify, there hasn't been a positive report. It's a refusal report from Transportation memo from the Transportation Department, and hence the applicant would like some time to go and discuss the issues with the Transportation Department. The refusal memo is on the agenda that committee has in front of them today, and Enrique has confirmed that the deferral would allow him the time to go and make some and have those discussions with the staff. Okay? Do you have any, are you satisfied, or do you have any follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing further than what we had already received. The applicant had indicated that there is new evidence with Transportation Services that suggest something more positive as an outcome of their discussions. I have not seen that, and that weighs heavily on my decision. If he wants his item heard today, if it were deferred, that would have been the optimal, choice, I would say, for myself as a panel member, because I do tend to look very seriously at Transportation Services as the experts to guide our decision-making. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Nadini. I think that was a great question to provide that clarification. All right. Having that clarification now, members of the committee, are you prepared to move a motion on the request for deferral? Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I second that motion to defer this application sine die.
Thank you. And may I, all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried, and the application for 56 Treverton Drive has been deferred sine die. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have another request here?
The last deferral for the morning session, deferral is for 100 Blaisdell Road, item number 13. It's a deferral due to insufficient notice given under the Planning Act. The sign was not posted in accordance with the statutory requirement.
Silverio, are you with us? Silverio, I'm checking. Hello, thank you. Hi, so we understand that an insufficient notice was given under the Planning Act, and that there is a deferral being proposed, and that this item will be rescheduled to the September. Okay. So in the interest of time, we can move ahead. And staff, you have confirmed that the notice was insufficient and hence it.
That's correct. So it's a statutory requirements have not, so it's not at the request of the applicant, it's at the request of staff.
Correct. Okay, thank you very much. So, members of the committee, as you saw, we are having some technical difficulties in connecting with the agent. There's a request, well, the item is being deferred because of insufficient notice. Any questions? I see none. All right. If there are no questions, can I have a request, motion for deferral? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Mr. Deputy Secretary had clarified that they are going to observe to show compliance to the proper procedure and to complete the notice requirement. Therefore, I move the motion for deferral of item 13, and this is going to be rescheduled for our next meeting, September 15.
Thank you very much. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I second that motion for deferral.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application for item 13 has been deferred to the September hearing. Thank you. I guess this brings us to the end of our requests for deferral. We will now vet the agenda. There are no files to be closed. Okay, so I will vet the agenda. I will go from item 1 and move forward. If there are any speakers, the item will be held. If there are no questions or comments, we can proceed, and there's no speakers, we can proceed on decision with on those items. Item 1 is, so that was deferred. Item 2, 321 Silver Star Boulevard. And I don't see any registered neighbors here, but the agents, there are 2 agents that have registered to speak. So can we have Matthew Halo online with us? Matthew, are you with us?
Morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Matthew. So we have your application before us for 321 Silver Star Boulevard. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Matthew? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand there is no speaker to this item, but still, may I request, Madam Chair, if we can hold this item and come back, it will be appropriate to have some further elaboration on the nature of this development.
Okay, so you are requesting that this matter be held and that you're looking for some further information on this application. All right. So Matthew, as you heard, one of our members would like to have a further discussion on this application. So I am holding down this item and we'll come back to it when we get back to the deliberations. Okay?
Understood, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee members.
Thank you. So item 2 for 321 Silver Star Boulevard is being held for further discussion. Item number 3 is 94 August Avenue. There are no registered residents or neighbors to speak, but we do have the architect and the engineers and the agents online. Can we have staff Imran Khan online with us?
Through the chair, I believe the agent is speaking on behalf of this team, John.
Lorerio?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So is John with us? Hello, John?
Yes.
Good morning, John. We have your application for 94 August Avenue before us. It is a minor variance application. Do you have any comments at this time?
No, I believe it's a pretty straightforward application.
Okay, I will just reiterate that this application was previously deferred, sine die at the August 25th hearing, 2021, due to a family emergency, and now the application's coming back before the committee. Committee members, any questions or comments on this application at this time? I see none, all right. If there are no further questions or comments, I just want to confirm there are no conditions.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, if there are no questions, can I please have a motion on this application? Member Said, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To me, this is a pretty straightforward application, and the variances mentioned there are quite minor, appropriate. Therefore, Madam Chair, I move the motion for approval of item number 3, and I don't see there are any conditions for that.
Thank you, and may I have a seconder, please? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm second Mr. Member Singh's motion to approve this application.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application for 94 August Avenue has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, committee members.
Thank you.
Company.
Next item, item number 4, and the address is 3029 Queen Street East. I don't see any registered speakers here except the agent. Can we please have the agent, Eldon Theodore? Eldon, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Eldon. So we have your application before us. We are vetting our agenda at this time. Any comments that you may have for the committee?
Oh, just simply that to help the committee understand, this application is really minor variances that deal with the enclosure of existing carport. So you'll see that the variances are actually quite small: 1 foot to the front yard, 4 centimeters to the side yard, a 1.4% coverage of the really dealing with the carport. So what we're really talking about is improving the building facade and ensuring that my client can accommodate their growing family with the additional story, which is actually not a variance. So I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Eldon. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Eldon? I see. Oh, Member Said, go ahead, please.
Madam Chair, very quick question from the agent or the owner. Have you applied for the TRCA permit? It's in process.
To you, Madam Chair, I'm not sure whether the application for the TRCA permit has been applied for, but it would be a requirement prior to the issuance of any permit. So I anticipate that there's no way of getting around that requirement, something that will be prescribed as part of this if it is a requirement.
That is correct. So, Mr. Said, the TRC permit would be an applicable law, and that would be required prior to issuance of a building permit. So rest assured that would be taken care of through that process. Okay. All right. If there are no further questions, can I please have a motion on this application? And I do not see any conditions by staff or agencies. I have a bit of a tie here. I'll go with Mr. Taylor. Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm satisfied that the 4 variances being requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval with no conditions.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder? Member Nadini? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I second Member Taylor's motion to approve this application without conditions.
Thank you very much. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been approved and there are no conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Next item on the list is item number 5, and item 5 is 14 Lejeune Road. There are no registered speakers, so can we please have the agent Elena Lacheva, please? Elena, are you with us?
Hello?
Hello, Elena.
Yeah, I'm the agent, the architectural designer. We have one concerned neighbor, and we answered in writing to their concern. We believe the minor variance is minor. It's a floor space index and the height. We have support by the councillor, by 4 neighbors, and we provided some statistical information showing that the minor variance is a minor. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you very much. For record, I would note that we do have all the letters of concern and support signatures on the agenda that the committee has reviewed as well. All right, members of the committee, do you have any questions for Elena? And before we proceed, Elena, there are conditions of urban forestry. Are you aware of those conditions, and do you have any questions regarding
Yeah.
those conditions?
No, we are aware and we already employed arborists to prepare the reports.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. Members of the committee, if there are no questions, can I please have a motion? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand that all the variances before committee, 4 variances, and they are minor in nature or appropriate. The applicant is aware of the urban forestry condition number 1 and condition number 2. Therefore, I move the motion for approval of this application, subject to the urban forestry condition 1 and 2.
Thank you, Member Said. And can I have a seconder, please? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, I second Member Said. Sorry, am I saying the right thing? It's Said?
That is correct.
You're perfectly right. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I may have gotten it wrong the first time, but Member Said's motion to approve this application subject to forestry.
All right, thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application for 14 Lejeune Road has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 6, and item 6 is 56 Oak Ridge Drive. And I note that we have neighbors who have registered to speak on this application. So I will hold down this item and come back to it for further deliberation. So item 6 for 56 Oak Ridge Drive is being held for further discussion. Moving to the next item, item number 7, and item 7 is 10 Linville Road. I don't see any registered residents or neighbors on this application, so can we have the agent Rick Bongers, please? Rick, are you with us?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Rick. So we have your application before us for the minor variance application. Do you have any comments at this time?
No, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And while I have you, Rick, are you aware of the urban forestry conditions, and do you have any questions on that?
I'm aware and I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Rick? I see none. All right. If there are no questions or comments on this application, and Rick has confirmed of the urban forestry conditions, can I please have a motion? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you. I move approval of this variance. I noticed that the variances are really very minor and appropriate in the location. I also note that we have letters of support from the adjacent owners, which is helpful when we're considering the impact of the variances on the community. So I move approval subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I second the motion for approval.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. An application for 10 Linville Road has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9 is 7 Larwood Boulevard. And I don't see any registered neighbors here, so can we please have the agent, Andrew Marshall? Hello, Andrew, you with us?
Yes, I am, Andrew Marshall.
Andrew Marshall, thank you, Andrew. So we have your application before us for 7 Larwood Boulevard. Do you have any comments at this time?
Maybe a quick explanation of what the application is all about. Basically, the previous owner of this building had built kind of half the house at the back of this property attached to the existing house. Their intention had been basically to then tear down the original house and add the remainder of the house basically where we're doing it. So essentially that's what we're doing. We're completing up the work that had originally been planned, but with a different design. Our new addition is actually nets the house actually being shorter than the original house and the addition to the back. We have cut back an existing rear terrace overhang down to what's more appropriate, 10 square meters. Other variances are basically kind of resultant. The existing first floor first floor elevation is above what's permitted or required now. Building length, we're kind of stuck with because the building is so far back. Similarly with the building depth. We made sure that side yard setbacks were covered, more or less all the big things usually. We've never have any variances needed.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. That certainly helps.
Sorry, one last thing. The neighbors have all been discussed with, and there was letters of support signed off, but there wasn't sufficient time to submit them.
Oh, that's good information as well, that the neighbors are in support and are on board. On this note, you are aware of the conditions of urban forestry, correct?
Yes, that's normal, and we're already in the process of making the application.
All right, thank you very much for confirming that. And members of the committee, do you have any questions for the agent, Andrew? Member Nadini, please go ahead, and then Member Said.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask the applicant to provide a bit more of an explanation for variance number 6. The second floor balcony seems to be more than double what is permitted. And that as a variance doesn't seem minor to me. Plus, additionally, there is a letter of concern from number 16 that discusses the same thing. And I'm not sure they haven't indicated if it was privacy concerns. I wondered if you could provide some commentary for us on especially variance number 6.
Sure. Do you have the plans with you at all?
Which one would you like
If
to
if you look
present?
at A1A, which is
A1,
the detail.
A1A, okay.
Yeah, A1 detail.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the back of the house,
The one before
it
that.
shows it says sorry, my apologies, A1 detail.
The one before this, staff.
Yeah. If you look at the back of the house near the top, you can see existing balcony reduced. So that was an actual terrace that's in place currently. So we had an existing balcony that at the time Scarborough wouldn't have had a restriction on that size of balcony. We took it and actually reduced it to less than half of the size of what the existing balcony was. And the whole explanation of that is right on that plan. So while it seems large, it's kind of an appropriate size given the size of the back of the house. The neighbor who submitted a letter of concern is across the street, and there's no privacy issues whatsoever.
Does that answer your question, Member Nandini?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the applicant for that explanation. That satisfies my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on that note, if there are no further questions or comments, can I please have a motion? Oh, sorry, Member Said, you had a comment. Please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was exactly the same question which Member Nadini have asked about variance number 6 and the observation made by a neighbor, but I'm okay with the elaboration by the agent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. So can I have a motion now, please? Member Said, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of item number 9, and there is a condition attached to this, urban forestry condition number 2.
All right, and may I have a seconder, please? Member Nadini, go ahead, please.
I'll second Member Said's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been approved, subject to condition of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving to the next item, item 10, and this is 41 Falling Brook Road. I note that there are speakers registered to speak to this application from the neighbors, so I will hold down this item for further discussion. So item number 10, which is 41 Falling Brook Road, is being held for further discussion. Moving to the next item, item number 12. Item 12 is 2479 Gerard Street East. And once again, we have a neighbor who has registered to speak. So item number 12, which is 2479 Gerard Street East, is being held for further discussion. Item 12 has been held. Moving to the next item, item number 14 is 19 Flint Ridge Road, and I do not see any registered speakers, so can we please have the agent, Peter Jerusik? Thank you. Peter, are you with us?
I am present. Thank you.
Good morning, Peter. So we have your application.
morning.
We have your application for 19 Flint Ridge Road. And there is a staff report as well that should the committee approve this application, the decision be tied to the site plan. And I believe there's also a condition of urban forestry. Do you have any questions or comments at this time?
I do not. We worked with planning staff and we're in agreement with that condition.
All right, thank you. And members of the committee, do you have any questions for Peter at this time? I see none. All right, so if there are no questions, can I please have a motion on this application, 19 Flint Ridge Road? And we'll go with Member Nadini, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do believe that this application was developed with sensitivity and with the approval of planning staff. So I'll motion to approve this application, as I do believe it meets the 4 tests, and I'll make it subject to the August 8th staff report, in that the owner shall build substantially in accordance with the site plan drawing dated May 10th, 2022. So subject to that condition, as well as subject to the condition of urban forestry. That's my motion.
Thank you very much, Member Nadini. And can I have a seconder for this motion? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion of Member Nadini, and this is subject to the urban forestry condition number 1 and subject to the community planning staff report.
Thank you. I just want to advise the members, for motions that are more detailed, I would just say to second the motion, because there's always a chance that you're missing something. For example, Member Nadini had dates of site plan and whatnot. So I'd just say, for longer motions, I would just say you just second the motion, just to avoid any errors. All right, thank you very much for that, and all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application for 19 Flint Ridge Road has been approved.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving to the next item, which is item number 15. It is 75 Fairwood Crescent, and I do note that we have registered speakers on this application. So I will hold down this item and come back to it. So item 15, 75 Fairwood Crescent is being held for further discussion. Item 16, 2217 Kingston Road. And I do not see registered neighbors here. Can I please have the agent, Kelly Graham, online with us, please? Kelly, are you with us?
Hi, this is Kelly Graham. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Kelly. So we have your application before us. You also had a community planning staff report, and there was no objection. It was more a information report. And do you have any comments at this time? Actually, there is a condition tied to the site plan. Sorry, the recommendation is tied to the site plan. Do you have any comments at this time?
None here. We're okay with the proposed condition. I do have a presentation that I prepared if the committee wishes to see it, but I'm happy to just be here and answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Kelly. Members of the committee, you heard the agent. Do you have any questions or comments, or do you wish to see the presentation? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure whether Kelly will be able to answer this question at the vetting stage, but I have a quick question about the angular plane. The variance number 3 is stating you meet the requirement of 45-degree, but the starting point is not from 10.5 meter. It's beyond that 15.2 meter. I just want to have just a little bit clarification on that. It's on one hand, it's meeting the requirements, 45-degree angle, but at the same time, the starting point is different. So would you be able to give further clarification on that?
Certainly, through the chair, thank you for the question. The variance here is with respect to a specific angular plane that's written into the cliffside zoning bylaw, which differs from the angular plane standard that applies more broadly across the city along avenues and mid-rise kind of corridors. So that we've applied the standard from the mid-rise performance standards, which is slightly more generous, I should say, than the cliffside bylaw. But we still are confident that it meets the intent of the bylaw provision and there will be no negative impacts.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Member Said, does that satisfy your question or concern?
Yes and no, but I will say yes, in a sense, if it don't have a negative impact on that, although I don't understand what will happen if it is from 10.5, because we are taking a generous view and giving you a further advantage of that, but I'm okay as long as it's meeting the 45 angle requirement and there is no negative impact. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. I would, in this situation, rely on the professional planning staff that have provided a recommendation report, and they have not expressed any concerns with the angular plane not meeting the requirement. From a professional point of view, I would say that there will be no impact according to my understanding of the project as well, if that helps you further. Okay. Thank you, Member Said. Member Macaulay, I saw your hand up. Do you have any question as well? Yes, Member.
Madam Chair, I just had I guess a question about the development, but I think it's been resolved. I've reread my notes and I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Macaulay. If there are no further questions of Member Macaulay, can I please have a motion for this application? And there's a condition and community planning staff report as well. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm satisfied with the elaboration given by the agent or the owner. Thank you for that. I move the motion for approval of this application. There is no urban forestry conditions, but there is community planning staff report recommendations out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I will second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application for 2217 Kingston Road has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then the last item for the morning session is item 17, and this is 67 Chandler Drive. There are no neighbors listed here, so can I please have the agent, Rock Kim?
My name is Rock Kim. I'm the agent of the 67 Chandler Drive.
Okay, thank you, Rock. Rock, we have your application before us, and there are conditions from urban forestry that have been presented to the committee. Are you aware of those conditions, and do you have any concerns with those?
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and then no concerns about that, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions for Rock? Okay, so we'll start with Member Said, and then we'll go to Member Nadini, and then we'll go to Member Macaulay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rock. You understand the urban forestry condition. My question is there, I was looking at the street map. There is a very big tree in front of the property, and I understand that is a city property where the tree is. So is this is the tree we are talking about, the condition which is going to be injured or removed, just for sake of clarification?
The site, the front landscaping has been all done already. So I don't think there's issue with the front trees. But we will get the permit for that. Yeah, we'll get the clearance letter from the urban forestry.
Member Sage, you've muted yourself, unfortunately.
I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. Thank you for pointing.
No problem.
Yes, Rock. So the tree, the biggest tree in front of the house is not going to be injured or removed, right?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Said. And then I'll go to Member Nadini.
Madam Chair, I withdraw my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the applicant, I note that your proposal is to increase the amount of hardscaping on this property, 36% of the front yard to be landscaped instead of 75, and 40% of the rear yard to be landscaped instead of 50. Is there, am I hearing you correctly that all this landscaping has already been completed?
Yes, it's been done already. Yes.
And so you are asking for a variance, which I would call a variance of forgiveness for something that has already gone ahead.
Yeah, this one has been at the permit for the second floor addition, and then the owner made the everything is done for the construction, and then they made the landscaping part. Actually, he didn't know the walkway is bigger in the backside, the patio area.
Okay, so I just want to make a comment. There's no such thing as forgiveness. When we receive a minor variance application, it is, for all intents and purposes, a blank canvas, blank slate, and we look at it as if nothing's been built or done. So I just want to clarify that we're looking at this application as if nothing has been built or done. And we are going to make our decision on the 4 tests under the Planning Act. Member Macaulay.
Thank you,
please go
Madam
ahead.
Chair, for that clarification. And yes, we are looking at this as a variance, and are these variances minor?
Any other comment? I see none. All right. If there are no comments, and I must note that the applicant has confirmed, or the agent has confirmed the conditions of urban forestry. If there are no concerns or comments, can I please have a motion? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I've listened very intently to what the applicant has had to say, and I am treating this as a brand new application, and I really haven't heard, you know, some commentary from the applicant with respect, especially to its 2 variances, but they're major variances, especially variance number 1, and that really concerns me. I don't believe it's minor,
okay.
even though it's 2 variances.
Okay, just before, I'm sorry to interject you, Member Nadini, but should you if you require more information or if you require more clarification, explanation, I suggest that we park this or hold this item and come back to it and give the applicant an opportunity to better explain the proposal so that then we can make an informed decision at the time. Is that something
That might be best.
Okay.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you.
I'm usually hesitant in going with, you know, a negative decision on applications without giving the applicant a full opportunity to discuss. Okay, so I feel that there are some questions and some concerns, and I think it would be best to hold down this item and give the applicant an opportunity to further discuss and explain what is going on. So I would say we will hold down this item and come back to it for further discussion. So 67 Chandler Drive, we are holding for further discussion. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rox. So just stay tuned. We will come to it in the order. All right, so that brings us to the end of the morning agenda, but I will do a quick recap to confirm the items that have been held so that I'm not missing any. So the first item that was held is item number 2. Item number 6. Item number 10. Item number 12. Item number 15. And item number 16. Okay,
Through the chair, item 17.
I'm sorry, item 17. Okay, so 15 and then 17. Okay, thank you. All right, so we just confirmed the items that have been held. So I will now begin the agenda with the items that have been held for further discussion. Starting with the first item, 321 Silver Star Boulevard. And we have the agent with us, Matthew Halo and Ryan. And I guess we'll start with Matthew and see if he's the speaker on this application. Matthew, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm here. It's Matthew Halo from Weston Consulting, joined by Ryan Gooder, as well as the owners and developers of the lands.
Excellent, thank you very much. So, Matthew, the reason for holding this item was that member Saeed had some questions or needed further clarification. So do you wish to proceed with the questions or do you wish to present before going to the questions?
If I'm able to make a brief presentation to the committee, Madam Chair, that'd be helpful
For sure.
for providing some context on the action and the proposal.
Sure, please go ahead.
So
You have
before-
5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. So before you today, committee members, through the chair, we have an application for a minor variance. There are 3 minor variances before you. The proposed development is a mixed-use employment development with retail and industrial uses. There are 2 buildings proposed. Building A is the retail restaurant plan, and we have a notice that that's been presented into your packages that we can share as well. If there are any questions that the committee has of me and my colleague at this time, we're happy to answer any questions. We've been working with staff on finalizing the variance list, as well as we have a site plan control application that's in its final form. And the minor variance application reflects the site plan application that's being reviewed by staff. Generally, staff are
Has some questions perhaps. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a quick question. I got somewhat confused over the restaurant space. You're asking for a reduction in parking, I believe, and partially for the restaurant. I wasn't sure whether you were providing 1 restaurant or 2 restaurants. When I looked at the site plan, it was somewhat confusing to me. Can you clarify, please?
Through the chair, to answer Member Macaulay's question, we are proposing in Building A, there is a restaurant use, and is proposed at 260 square meters. There is a retail component that's 1,431 square meters as well. Pardon me, actually, the entire retail plaza is 1,431.78 square meters, and as part of that retail plaza, there is a restaurant use at 260 square meters. As it relates to the parking, we are not seeking a reduction in the restaurant or the retail parking rate. The only reduction we're seeking it relates to the industrial use, which is that 3-story self-storage building. I hope that clarifies your question.
Does that clarify the question, Member Macaulay?
Not really. Let Mr. Mohammed go ahead and ask his questions and
Certainly.
become clearer.
Sure. So we have had 2 hands up. So Member Said, and then we'll go to Member Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that was a good question. And it's a part of my question too about the overall GFA. Yes, Mr. Matthew, I will come to the restaurant gross area, and the gross area is pertaining to the parking space which you are asking for. Coming to my first question, a little bit, when I go to the numbers given by the three components, whether it's a retail area, the restaurant area, and the self-storage. So if I take the gross area separately for these three components,
Yes.
I found there were inconsistency between the numbers, so I need your clarification. Now, the total project gross floor area is over 11,000, which is mentioned in the subject in the objective of this public notice. Now I come to the restaurant area, which is a little bit confusing. You have to elaborate on that. Variance number 2, which speaks about the restaurant area, uh, which is the propose, you are proposing 4,000, above 4,000, uh, which is 2 times, 3 times higher than the one. But the thing is, you are taking it as an umbrella component, and you say the difference is only 260 square meter. That's the point where a little bit confusion is there. So could you please further elaborate on that? And then think member Anne has rightly pointed out, the
Certainly.
earlier answer was a little bit clear, but not that clear.
Certainly. I understand the clarification that's required through the chair. I'd like to open up the floor to Ryan Guter to answer the question. There's a bit of a nuance with the zoning bylaw itself, and we've been working with staff to sort of clarify these nuances, and through the proposed variances and through our waiver, there's some clarification that's needed. So I'd like to introduce Ryan Guter to provide some clarification on your question, Member Said. Through the chair.
Yes, please go ahead.
Members, thank you, Madam Chair, and members with the questions. I trust you can hear me okay. Is my audio coming through clearly?
It is very clear,
Wonderful.
Ryan.
So what I'd like to do is just provide a bit of context, because I appreciate the members' questions. The performance standards that we're seeking relief from date back to the former Scarborough bylaw that applies certain performance standards that are applicable to the entirety of lands beyond the subject property. So they've got a provision that deals with the floor area permissions, for example, and the total restaurant area permitted that includes our property and additional properties. So that's the reason, sir, why you've got a variance request for restaurant area that's greater than what's proposed on this specific site, because the total area of restaurant uses within the lands that are subject to this performance standard is what we've assessed the variance on. So the proposal represents a small portion of that restaurant space. There's additional restaurant space that is existing within that area, and the performance standard as it's dictating restaurant floor area. What we're varying is the total as it relates to the performance standard. So what you see reflected in the second variance is the sum total of all the restaurant uses within that area governed by the performance standard and what is proposed, again, on an aggregate basis. So the actual restaurant floor area that we're seeking for restaurant is, as Matthew pointed out earlier, and the variance request is related to the aggregate total of that floor area because the performance standard governs it in that way. And to just supplement Matthew's remarks to Member Macaulay's question, that floor area is likely to accommodate probably only one restaurant tenant in all likelihood by virtue of the size of it. The tenants are not specifically known at this point, so we don't have the ability to confirm the specific tenant obviously at this point, but the amount of floor area that would be there would be indicative of likely only a single restaurateur in that space given the amount of floor area. And hopefully that I've attempted to answer both members' questions there. There is some intricacy with the performance standards here, which is why the request might seem to be uh, a bit awkward or a bit unconventional from the standard way of structuring those requests. And what I can tell you with some confidence is we've gone through a number of zoning certificate processes with staff, with building and zoning and planning to ensure that these variances are properly reflective of the proposal before you. And and that also relates to the parking supply. So parking again is based on an aggregate total based on the uses within the area, uh, as also the floor area. So the total floor area uh, is also calculated based on the performance standard, which includes additional properties as well. So that's why there might seem to be a disconnect between the site plan and the the variances sought. But happy to follow up, and I see your hand, Member Macaulay. So happy to answer any questions that arise from my remarks. But thank you for your line of questioning.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you. I had some concerns about this application, and I wanted to be assured that this application that we have before us has been reviewed by the city staff. The concern is the interpretation that you appear to be taking. And I believe the interpretation, it deals with, there's a clause in the zoning bylaw that says the zoning provides, the zoning this applies to all lands within this property, regardless of their separation into two or more ownerships. And I think that is why we've got restaurant uses that are much larger than what are being proposed. And I'm not sure that that is appropriate. Your development itself is not going to have that that size of restaurant or size of the total floor area. Ryan, you have gone over that clause with the zoning examiners and understand it, because I would hate to give approval for this when the understanding is not clear.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Macaulay, there has been quite an extensive dialogue with staff, both from the standpoint of planning staff, but those specifically responsible for interpreting the bylaw provisions as they would apply to these lands. And we've actually undertaken two separate reviews, one of which, the most recent of which, came in about a week and a half ago, and it's consistent with the variance list that we have. So I'm confident that the interpretation we've provided is in fact correct. And that was the subject of really a lot of discussion. We originally had this matter tabled for committee. The applications were submitted a number of months ago, and we tabled the scheduling of this to a committee hearing in order to ensure we had the benefit of that very comprehensive and detailed review. And what we did is a very careful assessment of the land that are subject to that provision to ensure that we've captured it correctly. And yes, I acknowledge it's perhaps slightly different than the conventional variance where you have the front yard is 7 meters and you're varying to X number, right? It's a bit more intricate, but nevertheless, we have the application well justified from a planning standpoint. It is minor in nature because the assessment of parking supply has been done through a parking study that's been submitted, and the proposed uses and composition of the buildings has gone through site plan process of over 3 separate submissions. So we're at a point in the process, Madam, that is far along in the process enough to have that assurance. And we're also aware that planning staff has provided a bit of an explanation of that in their staff report as well, which provides some context. And of course, we've been working quite closely with the city planning staff and building staff. So trust that's of assistance.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I think that's helpful. And okay, well, it's a marathon right now. So Member Ann, Member Macaulay, and then Member Taylor, and then Member Said. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I'm just going to comment. As some of the members would know, I used to work with the planning department, and so I was probably the person that put that very complicated performance standard into the zoning bylaw. It was meant only for the city center and got passed around as planners do onto other properties. And so I was concerned in this case that it was being interpreted correctly, that what you are asking for would in fact be realized in terms of a building permit. I think, Madam Chair, I'm satisfied they spent some time discussing this both with the planners and with the zoning examiners. And I'm satisfied that the variances in front of us are what has resulted from those consultations. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. And I'm going to go to Member Taylor now.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Considering the conversations that have been going on for the last several minutes, I'm quite satisfied to proceed with this application.
All right, thank you, Member Taylor. And now Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Ryan and Matthew for their elaboration. Yes, Member Ann, the interpretation of this, all these things is very important, how they are interpreted at a later stage. I believe my comment is that the variance number 2, which is if I look at just focus on the variance number 2, which is a little bit confusing unless we have the studies or the information available, enough information available about the other restaurants in the same area. As you mentioned, that there is a certain area, and I can see the community planning report, there is a banquet hall there which is using a lot restaurant area, and the remaining one, the gross difference is finally 290 square meters, which is only for one restaurant, which is proposed over here. So the elaboration is okay. I wish the interpretation is done accordingly at the later stage, and there is no confusion to that. Madam Chair, with that, I am satisfied as far as this variance is concerned. Matthew, my next question is about the variance number 3, which is the parking spaces. Now, the parking spaces for each building, 3-story building, where the requirement is 106 parking spaces under the enforced zoning bylaws, while you are providing only 9 parking spaces and giving a justification of the proposed parking requirements. So while in 2 cases you are using a bylaws which is enforced because that meets your requirements, but on the other hand, when it's come to the building B, the self-storage, the number of parkings, you are taking the
proposed development and the variance application was submitted to the Committee of Adjustment as part of the application package. BA Group, through their study, is supporting the proposed development, both Building A and Building B. As you had remarked, Building A, the uses in Building A, the retail and the restaurant uses, meet the zoning parking requirements. As it relates to Building B, which is the industrial self-storage building, what BA Group has done is they've studied the last weekend of the month and during the late spring and early summer months, which in the industry standards for self-storage buildings is typically outside of December 26th, which is Boxing Day right after Christmas, is typically their highest grossing or busiest months, busiest days. So through 3 proxy sites, which had similar characteristics to the self-storage facility that we're proposing on the lands through Building B. Those characteristics included a multi-story building, a self-storage warehouse in an urban area, with central loading facilities and no drive-up units. The three proxy sites were 144 Norseman Street in Etobicoke, 356 Eastern Avenue, downtown Toronto, 530 Adelaide Street, as well as downtown Toronto. The report identifies through these three proxy sites that the proposed 0.09 spaces per 100 square meters is adequate, and the average between those three proxy sites taken during those time periods was 0.06 spaces per 100 square meters. In addition, the BA Group report had identified a number of minor variance applications that were successful in the City of Toronto that sought reductions in parking for self-storage buildings. Of note, similar to the proxy site, 144 Norseman Street, 185 Yorkland Boulevard, and 55 Bridgeland Avenue. 185 Yorkland Boulevard successfully sought a variance and has more GFA with a similar parking rate of 0.10 per 100 square meters. 55 Bridgeland Avenue similarly has more GFA and a similar parking rate of 0.11 per square meters. Overall, this parking study supports the proposed development and the industrial building that's proposed on building B, as well as the parking rate at 0.09 spaces per 100 square meters. I hope this clarifies your question.
That was a great explanation. Member Said, I see your hand up again.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Yes, I have checked. I have gone through the parking study report, and there are three proxy sites which are outside the area of Scarborough, and especially the Scarborough East, which have a different, the reality on the grounds, the traffic flows and the building structures and the usage of this building. But anyway, that's a good study, and the stats are quite convincing. But Madam Chair, I personally feel okay with the retails and the restaurants parking spaces, but looking at this point where the property is three-story building, it's a 10,000 square meter. And
Member Said, sorry to interrupt. You realize this is a self-storage building, right? Where
Self-storage.
where 100 people don't park at one time. They typically, it's a very, I would say in my opinion, not a parking intensive use. Whether 7 is accurate or not, that's not what I'm commenting on, but it's not a very parking intensive use. You appreciate that, right? Okay, all right.
And through the chair, if I can clarify something, you're correct to say to your assertion that self-storage buildings, the way they operate typically is it's certain periods. It's sort of short periods of time. You come in, there are 3 loading spaces that are being provided and proposed, so there's adequate space to, park your vehicle, unload, move through the building, offload, and then exit the building.
Certainly, I agree. I was going to that point, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Yes, the usage of the building, as Madam Chair mentioned, it's a self-storage. It's not that frequently used, so I agree with that. With that point, with some reservations, I think I am okay with that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Member Said. Other members, any questions? I think we've had a good discussion on this. Member Taylor.
Just a quick comment, Madam Chair. I think you've alluded to it before today in connection with our dependence and reliance on professional staff. And I'll admit to being a little bit disturbed about the length of the deliberation on parking issues. We have a professional transportation services department who did not report on this matter, and therefore, in my opinion, no opinion from that professional department should be sufficient for our purposes. So I just make that comment.
Thank you very much, Member Taylor. Appreciate that comment. All right, on that note, can I have a motion on this application? Member Taylor, go ahead, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm satisfied that this application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I note it has councillor support, and there are no conditions of approval. So I move approval without conditions.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, I second Member Taylor's motion, and with the explanations provided by Member Macaulay, who provided some expertise, as well as the fact that Transportation Services had no concerns. Counselor support has been present, and they worked with staff so that the staff report was positive. I motion to second this application.
Thank you very much, Member Nadini. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried unanimously and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item that was held for further discussion is item number 6 and, sorry, 8? Oh, even 6 was held. 6, right? Okay. Item 6, for 56 Oak Ridge Drive. Item 6, for 56 Oak Ridge Drive. And can we have the agent, Leo Mistrandria? And while Leo is connecting, I just want to just call out the names, Emily Smith and Donna McParland, who have registered to speak, to please prepare yourself to speak. We'll be with you in a few minutes. So starting with the agent, Leo Mistrandria.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Leo Mastandre. I'm the agent for the owners at 56 Oak Ridge.
Thank you, Leo, for joining us today. We have your application before us. It is a minor variance application to allow you to demolish existing building and construct a new two-story detached dwelling. And for that, you are requesting 6 variances that are before us. And I want to make a note that this application has been amended as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I allow you a few minutes to help us understand what the changes are. If you wish, we can have the revised variance notice up on the screen as well so that we can walk through it together and to help us better understand.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
So based on the opposition letters and the neighbor concerns, I spoke to my client and we removed a few of them and revised a few of them to bring it in line with what their concerns are. So essentially, we
Just bear with us, Leo. We're pulling up the notice. Yes, Leo, just bear with us. We're putting up the notice and it's on the screen. So there you go.
Yes. So again, based on the opposition letters, so we removed variance number 1, we removed variance number 3, and we removed variance number 6 completely. In addition to this, we revised variance number 2 to read from our original 8.68 meter main wall to 7.92. And I've also submitted drawings to reflect these changes. I'd also like to mention that planning staff has no concerns on this application, and we do have 20 support letters which we've submitted, including the 2 adjacent. I believe now with these revisions, it does meet the 4 tests, and if you have any questions, I can answer them for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mastandria. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Leo? I see none. All right. Okay. So Leo.
Through the chair, Member Macaulay has a question.
Oh, okay. I didn't see. Sorry. My apologies. Please, Member Macaulay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Do we have a revised site plan that shows these changes?
Yes, we've submitted a complete revised package, and yes, you should have it.
Thank you.
So I did bring the house up closer to keeping in line with the adjacent neighbors, and there are no variances to the front yard setback, building length, but we do have a minor variance for the building length.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to see, because I noted that you had a very long building and there was a concern about the building and overlook on the adjacent neighbors in the rear yard. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Macaulay. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Liu, you mentioned certain changes in variance number 2. I could not catch up on that. Could you just repeat it? Variance number 2.
Yes, if you up on the screen.
Yes, we're putting it up.
So variance number 2 has been reduced from 8.68 meters to 7.92, which is similar to decisions approved on the street.
Okay, does that help address your question, Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Am I missing anyone? Anyone else has a question? I see none. All right, thank you very much. We now move on to speaking with our residents who have joined us today to speak and on this application. So the first one on the list is Emily Smith. Emily, are you with us? And Emily is a representative from CSVSWRA. Emily, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hello. Good morning, Emily. So thank you for joining us today. We understand that you wish to speak with us today and express your or advise of us of your concerns on the application. So Emily, you have 5 minutes and please proceed now.
Great. Thank you very much. And good morning, committee members. Yes, my name is Emily Smith, and I have lived at 38 Oak Ridge Drive for the past 9 years with my husband and young family. I understand that the committee has 4 tests that they need to base their decision on, and if one of the tests fails, the application should be refused. Although I've just been made aware that apparently there are changes that now address these 4 tests. So a little bit tricky for us to change up our response at the last minute. But if you could please pull up page 3 of the RA presentation. Even with the reduced wall height, I believe that the proposed house is not in keeping with the prevailing height, massing, scale, and density of the houses in our neighborhood, as referred to in the official plan, policy 4.15, section C. Could you please pull up the neighborhood letter of opposition showing the neighbors in opposition? While we appreciate that the owner of this property did approach many of the neighbors regarding their development plans, as demonstrated in their letters of support submitted on the AIC, we want to bring your attention that 2 of the immediate neighbors, number 58 and 64, have both rescinded their support and signed our petition in opposition once they were made aware of the magnitude of this proposed development. Both the abutting neighbors at number 54 and 58 Oak Ridge, along with other neighboring homes, are included in our petition of opposition. In this application, I'm speaking to the previous application, there were 7 excessive variances beyond the generous zoning guidelines, and we were opposed strenuously to 5 of the 7 variances being requested. Massive floor area, which I still believe has not changed. Building length, the building wall height, which is still above what is generously permitted, and the rear wall length from the front yard setback. So in this application now, I understand that they are requesting still a dwelling height that exceeds what is generously permitted. In this neighborhood, this dwelling would still stand higher than most of the surrounding homes, which are single-story dwellings with an average height of 6.5 meters. So we're already still just under a meter taller than the average.
So sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to clarify. So the variances related to the height have been removed. So the only variance that refers to the height is variance number 2, which is related to the exterior portions of the main wall, which are higher than what is permitted. But the overall height of the building is now going to meet the requirement of the zoning bylaw, which is 9 meters. So I appreciate that most of the prevalent houses or the character is 6 meters, and it's probably because of the older housing stock, but through the zoning bylaw, as of right, a 9-meter height is permitted for the buildings. So just wanted to put it out there so that,
Okay.
you know, if you are addressing that issue, you keep that in mind as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
Even within the height that is allowed, this proposed development still does tower over the adjacent bungalow homes and will cast a significant shadow, diminishing direct natural light, especially in the winter. Prior proposed dwelling height developments have been previously opposed by the Residents Association because of the way that our homes are situated, and which is east-west. In prior applications in the neighborhood, the Residents Association had provided sun shadow studies that demonstrated diminished natural light for neighboring homes at various times throughout the day. And I am aware that the city does not require sun shadow studies for residential developments, but there is an obvious negative impact on direct natural light reaching neighboring properties with this massive development. It's a destructive effect that even my pollinator and vegetable gardens have experienced growing or not so growing in the shadow of the newly constructed dwelling at 40 Oak Ridge. All right, if you could please pull up page 7 of the RA presentation. In this application, because the house is planned to be set as far back from the road as it is, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch if this has also been adjusted. But they were imposing on the rear wall setback. That is, they were requesting to be an extra 3.185 meters into the backyard, which infringes not only on the privacy of abutting neighbors, but also on the natural surroundings of the multi-use public trail behind the property. Sorry, I just wanted to review because I had some notes on the exterior wall height, but I'm going to leave those aside for now. I do want to note that the zoning waiver completed by the applicant, the proposed development is described as a 2-story home. However, when looking at the front elevation as shown on page 10 and 11 of the Residents Association presentation, it is quite evident that the proposed new dwelling presents itself as a 3-story home, as there are 2 levels above the garage. And we don't believe that this is minor, and it's also not in keeping with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. The proposal still represents an excessively large floor footprint, which is not in character with the immediate area, while again negatively impacting the abutting neighbors. We just want to note that house after house in our neighborhood is being bought by developers and demolished to build excessively large new homes beyond the already generous and existing zoning guidelines. And this does not represent appropriate development, especially in the face of a climate emergency. The approval of variances allows first for larger excavation areas, which emits more stored CO2 from the soil. And second, it allows for excessively large homes, which require more energy.
So I'll give you
Approving
another,
variances
sorry to
works
interrupt.
against-
I'll give you another 30 seconds to wrap up. I knew I had interrupted you, so I'm just going to give you another 30 seconds, but your time's up.
Okay, approving these variances works against the city's own climate action strategy, Transform TO. Furthermore, the approval of variances beyond the city's generous guidelines has adverse effects on the affordability of homes for families. In closing, we welcome and support developments that are environmentally sustainable and socially considerate in our neighborhood. The requested variances in the application are not minor and not within the prevailing character of the neighborhood. And as a result, we join our neighbors in requesting that the committee reject this application. Thank you for providing me with an opportunity to address you.
Thank you very much, Emily. Great presentation. Thank you for all the comments as well. I'm going to now go to the committee members to ask if they have any questions for you at this time. I see none. All right. Thank you, Emily. We'll now move to the next resident who has signed up to speak with us. Donna McParland, please. Hello, Donna.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well, Donna, and you have 5
thank you
minutes.
so much. Okay, thank you so much. As Emily stated, there has been some changes that were brought to us this morning, so that somewhat changes our presentation. But by way of introduction, my name is Donna McParland. I live at 63 Scarborough Heights Boulevard and have resided in this area for over 35 years. I am a member of the Cliff Crest Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association Planning and Development Committee. We're an incorporated residents association recognized by the City of Toronto. We're working to preserve the unique nature of our neighborhoods, and we do not support the application to replace the dwelling at 56 Oak Ridge Drive. Can you please pull up page 1 of the Residents Association presentation? We do support development that respects the existing characteristics of our neighborhood, but strenuously oppose overdevelopment, which removes the healthy tree canopy, reduces privacy, and does not respect the built form of the existing home. We believe that this proposal does not meet the intent and purposes of the Toronto Official Plan 4.1.5. Can you please pull up page 2 of the RA presentation? This section of Oak Ridge Drive consists of 82 homes between Brimley and McCowan Road. Over 80% of the homes on Oak Ridge Drive are bungalows and older 1.5 to 2-story homes. This is the character of the established neighborhood. Can you please pull up page 3? This part of Oak Ridge Drive is in transition, and existing bungalows could be expanded or replaced with 2-story homes. This can be done within the generous allowances of the bylaws. However, this application had 7 variances. We're now down to, well, they've revised 3, they've taken 3 away, and they've revised 2, but it still has an excessive floor area. The wall height is still taller than is zoned, and also it's a flat roof, and a flat roof is beyond the 7.2 meters for a flat roof. So as far as the floor area goes, this is on page 8 of the RA presentation. The application is requesting a floor area of 0.6 times the lot area, or 345.98 square meters. This is 24%, or 66.98 square meters larger than permitted. We note that prior minor variance approvals in this area for excessively large floor areas at number 19, 40, 45, 72, and 76 Oak Ridge Drive are changing the character of this immediate neighborhood, which is one of the 4 tests. So as this is one of the 4 tests that you evaluate in your process, we believe this application is changing the character and impacting the affordability of homes for families in the neighborhood. The developers are tearing down viable, smaller, affordable homes to build huge homes beyond the generous zoning guidelines, which are not affordable for most families, but are very profitable for the developers. This also creates massive amounts of construction waste going to landfills and impacts and disrupts the daily life of neighboring residents during the lengthy construction process. There are several homes in our area that were approved through this committee for variances that remain incomplete after 8 years and sit empty and derelict. The requested floor area is not in keeping with the prevailing massing of the neighborhood and fails to meet the intent and purpose of the official plan 4.1.5. RA has noticed also that applicants do not answer or give vague answers to the question on the application form, why is it not possible to comply with zoning bylaws? In this case, the applicant noted proposed design. We feel this does not adequately answer the question. We believe the committee needs to ask the applicants, especially the developers that are making this their business, why do you design these homes when you know what the bylaw standards are? And what makes your property so different from every other lot in the neighborhood that your plans are deserving of our special permission? In the zoning waiver, the proposed development is described as a 2-story home. When you look at page 10 and 11 of our presentation, it is evident that the proposed home presents itself as a 3-story home, as there are 2 levels above the garage. This is not minor and is not in keeping with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. The community believes that this house is not in keeping with the prevailing height, massing scale, and density of houses in our neighborhood as per the official plan 4.1.5. The excessively large floor area footprint negatively impacts the abutting neighbors with its massing and towering effect. It is distinctly out of character with the majority of homes on Oak Ridge Drive, and this application does not represent appropriate development of this site. In closing, we welcome and support positive, sustainable development in our neighborhood that conforms with zoning bylaws and with the City of Toronto's net zero climate strategy. However, the requested variances in this application are not minor and are not within the prevailing character of our neighborhood. We request that the committee refuse this minor variance application.
Okay, thank you.
Providing this opportunity.
Thank you very much for your time, Donna. And I will now go to the members of the committee if they have any questions for you. Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Donna. I just wanted to know, given the revisions that have been made by the applicant and submitted to us in advance, but you've seen them today, does that at least help your concerns about, this meeting the 4 tests, even after the revisions have been done?
Yes, no, I still feel, we still share the concerns. I think both Emily and I had made it very clear how the residents feel. And we're speaking on behalf of all of the residents. We have lived in this environment for years. And I would like any of you committee members to come and live beside one of these homes under construction. I have had 3 nails in my tires. But speaking directly to the dust, and nobody does anything. There's no enforcement. Like I said, I could point out at least 6 derelict homes. Once developers buy them, they sit empty. There's one kitty corner to me that's been empty for 5 years. So as far as what has been done in the changing a few minor things here, it still is a flat roof. It's still a 3-story structure. And it is still a massive structure that abuts on the adjoining neighbors and the green space behind there as well. So from my personal perspective, I don't feel that it satisfies the 4 tests, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any more questions? All right, I don't see anyone. So I believe that was the last speaker on the list. So I would now go back to Leo. Hello, Leo.
Yes.
Leo, so you heard the concerns, and how would you like to respond, please, to the matters that have been raised by the neighbors?
Well, this is the reasons why we revised our application, is to address these concerns. We removed the 2 of the height variances. We reduced the 3rd height variance. Our building length is minor in nature. We comply with all the setbacks. We comply with coverage. Most importantly, planning has no concerns. I feel what we've done to change our application is in keeping with the neighborhood. And I just also like to mention number 19 Oak Ridge was approved at 58% cover floor area. Number 40 Oak Ridge was approved at 63%, and number 45 Oak Ridge was approved at 70%. We're asking for 60%, which I believe is in keeping with what's been approved and actually below it. And I believe their concerns were based on our old application, and this revised application, I believe, meets the 4 tests.
Okay.
Also, I would like to mention, this is a house for my client as an owner, and he's not a developer. He's moving into this house for him and his family. So he's building this house for his family. He's not selling this house. He's not a developer, and this is what he would like to do.
All right. Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Leo? All right, okay, I don't see any hands. Before I take the matter into committee, Leo, any closing remarks?
No, I'd just like to add that I feel again that revising our application does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act.
All right, thank you very much. So I take the matter into committee now. Committee members, any comments, any deliberation? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Leo, for making some of those changes. Certainly the issue of height has been an ongoing concern in this community. I think the other issue, and the community recognizes that there is change from the single-story bungalows to the 2-story houses that are being built. But the big change in the variances that you're asking us is from a 0.5 times coverage to 0.6 times coverage. So that the building itself, instead of the house itself, instead instead of being 279 square meters, is 345 square meters. And you haven't provided a rationale other than that your client would like it as to why you can't meet the zoning standard for 0.5 times. Those are my concerns. I appreciate that the applicant is trying to meet the community. I appreciate that the community is recognizing that there is change. I think it's the change that we're really into debating at this stage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comment? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my observation on things like this is I'm not so much concerned about floor area if it doesn't impact other provisions of the bylaw. And I think that's the case here. We don't have a height variance. We have a very minor building length variance. No side yard variances, no front yard variances. So I don't think floor area, but in and of itself and by itself, causes a negative impact if it doesn't, as I say, affect other variances. So I'm not, I guess my own personal observation about this is I'm not concerned about the impact of the building, and yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Member Taylor. Okay, so if we do not have any more comments or thoughts, and are we prepared for a motion now? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. These, applications sometimes are really difficult to decide, especially when there are debutantes, neighbors that are coming in and, they live in the neighborhood and they care very much about their neighborhoods. I don't want to discount, I want to acknowledge all of their concerns and what they've brought forward. However, I do believe that the applicant has taken quite a bit of time to try to sensitively understand what the neighbors are saying and has revised their applications. And I happen to agree with Member Taylor's comments. And so for that reason, and for the reason that there are 22 letters of support, no concerns from councillor, and no significant concerns that's been brought forward from staff and the planning staff, I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application as revised, and that is the revisions that were submitted or stated by the applicant here today, in that variances number 1, 2, and 6 have been, 1, 3, and 6 have been removed, and variance number 2 is revised to now read: the proposed exterior main walls are now 7.92 meters. I'll also make this subject to forestry, and that's my motion.
Thank you very much, Member Nadini. Did you capture the conditions as well?
Through the chair, it's subject to urban forestry conditions, which is correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, may I have a seconder? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
And all in favor of this application? All, it's unanimous, and the application has been approved subject to condition of urban forestry and the application as amended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to our next item, and the next item is, that was held, is item number 8. No, not 8, sorry, item number 10. Item number 10 is 41 Fallingbrook Road. And we have a list of neighbors who have registered to speak, so I'll just do a quick roll call and just advise everyone to find their place and get ready. So first neighbor, Agnes Hugivin, John Gambles, Yuri Franklaw, and Sarah Pinto. We'll be with you in a few minutes, but please prepare for your comments. Can we have the agent Maxine Sapsov, please? Okay. Hello, Maxine.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Maxine. Thank you for joining us, Maxine. Yes. And we have your application before us. It's a minor variance application at 41 Falling Brook Road, and you wish to construct a second story to the existing dwelling, and for that purpose, you have 7 variances submitted to the city. Would you like to make a presentation, or would you rather go right to the questions?
I'd like to make a presentation. Yes, please.
Sure, no problem, Maxine. So you have 5 minutes for your presentation. Would you like us to bring up any materials on the screen?
We have submitted a street view. That would be.
A street view that was submitted, okay. Staff, can we have the street views submitted, and that would be in the agenda? That's the one you're looking at, Maxine?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so we have it up on the screen, and you have 5 minutes, and your time starts now.
Okay, we'll go straight to the variances. Variance number 1, the maximum floor space index is 0.6, whereas proposed is 0.741. We contend that each application needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis, and we believe this floor space index is reasonable based on our small lot size relative to the neighborhood. If you look at the key plan on the public hearing notice, you can get an idea of our lot size compared to the lots in the area. The lots directly across the street and behind us on Fallingbrook Crescent are larger than ours, and we are on one of the smaller lots for the neighborhood. So consequently, many surrounding houses are comparable in size to our proposal, even simply because they are on larger lots. A good comparable to ours is number 35, which you can see on the street view. It's 3 houses to the south. It has roughly the same size lot and was approved at committee in 2007 for 71%, or 255 square meters. This percentage-wise is slightly smaller than what we're proposing, but it actually has a higher gross floor than our proposal. And if you look at the photo, you can see the house at number 35, and it seems to fit right in. Another example is number 20 Fallingbrook Crescent, directly behind us, or slightly to the north. It was approved at committee this year for 243 square meters, and that's the same floor space index as our proposal. That brings us to variance number 2. It has a permitted lot coverage of 33%, whereas we're at 47%. So again, we have a small lot size. The existing dwelling sits at 33%, so any addition does not comply. We've only added to the south side, and we've actually reduced the ground floor footprint at the back by removing the sunroom and converting it to a deck. The second floor is cantilevered over the front bay window by 24 inches, and the main back wall by 24 inches. At the front, we've hidden the cantilever within this porch roof that wraps around that cantilever. Sort of porch roof with a gable above is a feature found on many houses in the neighborhood. Variance number 3, the platform size. Allowable is basically 5 feet by 8 feet. We're proposing 5 feet by 13 feet. So it's still not very, it's comfortable enough for 2 chairs. We've also, we do know there are privacy concerns, so we've added a privacy screen on the south side. Variance number 4, front yard setback. The front yard setback in this case is being taken to our cantilevered second floor, so the ground floor footprint remains as existing and there's no change. And again, as stated earlier, we've wrapped a porch roof around that cantilever, so it's hidden. When you look at that street view photo, there is an existing gable there. Essentially, it's in the same spot as the new gable will be, closer to the street by a foot and raised up by 7 feet. Variances number 5, 6, and 7 are technicalities, really. We're not proposing any changes at all to the driveway. It remains exactly as is. And again, if you look at the street view photo, you can see the parking in the front driveway, and you can see the neighbors have very similar situations. So again, it's a technicality, and I don't think it's unusual for the neighborhood. Yeah, so in summary, we think due to our smaller lot size, I think the house itself, when you look at the FSI, is comparable to many houses in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Maxine. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Maxine? All right, I see none. At this time, at least, we'll come back to you if you have more questions. So we'll start with our first neighbor who has registered to speak with us is Agnes Hogeveen. No, okay, so Agnes has not signed in. We will move to our next speaker, John Gambles. John, you're with us?
I am.
Good morning, John. You have registered to speak with us, so you have 5 minutes, sir. Please go ahead and let us know what concerns you have with the application that is before us.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is John Gambles, and for 40 years, my wife and I have lived at 16 Fallingbrook Crescent, which is immediately to the east of the applicant's property and one lot south and on a much lower elevation. We moved here seeking the privacy of this unique cul-de-sac on the environmentally protected Fallingbrook Ravine. You have our letter of objection requesting that this incomplete application be declined in totality on the basis that the applicant's variance requests are unreasonable and major, not minor. The applicant has not filed any indication of neighborhood support for their application. On the other hand, there is filed with the Committee of Adjustment for your consideration a petition signed by 34 neighbors requesting that the variance application be declined. These are neighbors living in close proximity to the applicant's property, owning 11 properties on Fallingbrook Road, 13 properties on the east on Fallingbrook Crescent, all impacted by the proposed build in one way or another, share in the belief that the requested variances are major, not minor, and should be declined. Notwithstanding the filed planning rationale of the applicant's architect, the issues that result from these unreasonable variance requests and impose on neighbors and negatively impact on their properties are clear. We believe the result will be contrary to the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws and the city's official plan. An erosion of the character of the east side of this block of Fallingbrook Road. A top-heavy house too large for the lot, towering over the neighboring properties and closing in on the property to the south, for which a required side lot setback variance request has not been applied for. The resulting rooftop rainwater runoff down the slope to the neighbors immediately to the south. A loss of privacy and neighborly enjoyment of backyard due to an overlooking balcony, however modest, that looks both south and to the east over the lower backyards of Fallingbrook Crescent. The increase in the fire risk with the balcony being over the eaves of the neighbors to the south. The risk of the health and life of the protected trees to the east should express good intentions regarding excavations not prevail. Another car parked in a front yard parking space. We do not share the architect's opinion that the additions respect the neighborhood aesthetic, a view we share with the 34 petitioners. The design and the facade are not in harmony with the character of the stone and brick neighbors to the north and south. Your decision regarding these unreasonable variances will be precedent setting for this row of classic bungalows on the east side of this block of Fallingbrook Road. As you are fully aware, each subsequent variance request for the next inevitable renovation will ask for a little bit more and a little bit more, starting with your decision on this application. With respect, we ask that the Committee of Adjustment decline this application and save us, as the zoning bylaw intended, from the otherwise depressing result. As an alternative, may I suggest that the Committee of Adjustment defer consideration of this incomplete and seriously opposed application, and instruct the applicant to confer with the petitioning neighbors to see if a mutually acceptable application can be arrived at before reapplying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gambles, for taking the time to speak with us. And for record, we did also receive your written submission, and it is on the agenda for the committee's review as well. Now, I'm going to ask my committee members if they have any questions for Mr. Gambles at this time. I do not see any hand up. All right, Mr. Gambles, we'll get that response from the applicant when the applicant comes back and speak with us. Our next neighbor is Yuri Franklaw. Yuri, are you with us?
I'm actually not sure if you can hear me or see me.
We can hear you quite well.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I live at 18 Fallingbrook Crescent, which is on a lot immediately east of the subject property. We share a back property line. 7.5 years ago, my family and I moved to this area, having genuinely fallen in love with the privacy of the outdoor space and what would become our property and the beautiful homes in this quiet, green neighbourhood across from the ravine. Today, I'm speaking not only on behalf of my family, but I've also been asked to represent the concerns of 23 other households who are close neighbours of the subject property. These households have put forward a petition to the committee. They share the opinion that at the heart of this application, the variances requested for the subject property are not minor in nature, and that the proposal in its present form will be detrimental to the neighbourhood. I have been asked by my neighbours to make their voice heard before the committee and to request on their behalf that the committee not approve relief from the bylaws for this. I would also respectfully point out that not a single house has come forward to support this application. I would like to specifically speak to the variance request. Firstly, I would respectfully submit they are not minor in nature. For a single example, the requested lot coverage is 43% larger than that permitted by the bylaws. Secondly, they are not minor in impact. Due to the topographical elevation of the subject property and its cantilevered, top-heavy second story, it will tower over the topographically lower properties to the east on Fallingbrook Crescent and the adjacent properties on Fallingbrook Road. The intrusion on privacy, combined even further with a 57% oversized second-story balcony, will be dramatic. We hope that you may be able to gain a more visceral sense of this by looking at the images in appendices E and F of our submission of August 10th. In its present form, this development proposal is not desirable or appropriate for our neighbourhood. It will adversely affect the surrounding property and the neighbourhood in general. Through its oversized bulk, it will intrude on privacy and the capacity to enjoy our backyards. It will shadow over neighbouring properties and it will appear glaringly out of place. The general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws is to protect neighbourhoods through maintenance of proportional relationships between adjacent buildings and between buildings and green space. This application seeks to reduce front yard green space, reduce front yard setback, and build within 67 centimetres of the adjacent property. Such a proposal does not meet the general intent of the zoning bylaws. Furthermore, according to the City of Toronto's official plan, neighbourhood development is intended to be sensitive and gradual, respecting and reinforcing the character of the community. This development, unfortunately, does not reflect or reinforce the existing streets. Rather, it is an attempt to push the allowable boundaries and the potential property value as far as we hope that you may be able to get a better sense of this by looking at the images in the appendix of ours. On a final note, I would like to make mention that even if the current variances were to be granted, the site plans in the application have not captured all of the necessary variances required for a building approval to be given. Consequently, to be allowed to build, the applicant will need to come back to this committee in additional variance. The missing variance details are in the addendum to our letter of objection. In summary, given the incomplete nature of this application, which is seeking non-minor variance and has no support in the community, I would respectfully request that the Scarborough Committee of Adjustment not grant approval or relief from the bylaw. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuri, for taking the time to speak with us. You live at the back of this property, correct?
Yep.
And okay, all right. And yours is
I might also, my partner Sarah Pinto is actually operating at the moment, so she's not able to speak.
You mean Sarah Pinto?
Sarah Pinto is my spouse. She's actually she's a surgeon. She's operating at the moment.
Oh,
So
I see.
unfortunately, she's not able to.
Okay, all right, no problem there. Okay, no, I'm just getting my bearings here. So your home is in the rear of this property, and it is it appears, I'm looking at the street view, it appears it's a two-story with sort of a walkout story as well at the front. Okay.
It's a two-story house.
It is a two-story house, yeah. It's because of the grade, you can see the story. Okay, all right, just wanted to confirm that.
And because of the topography, our second story actually looks directly into the first story of Falling Brook Road. So the difference in the topographical elevation and the grade of the streets is so extreme that the bungalows look directly into our second story.
Right.
Just for context.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, thank you. All right,
Thank you very
members of the committee, do you have any questions for Yuri? I see none. Okay, all right.
May I also
Mhm.
that Councillor Crawford has been approached by multiple people in the community and has actually pushed forward a letter that he feels that this is an inappropriate development.
You meant
that is part of the submissions.
Okay.
So the local Councillor Crawford is opposed to this submission. Just to point that out.
We do have a local councillor's letter. And yes, it is confirming support for the many residents who have expressed their concerns and objections to some of the variances requested in this application. Okay. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Yuri. I do not think any members have any questions for you. And you mentioned that Sarah Pinto is not available. So we can now go back to Maxine. Maxine? Hello?
Yeah. Hello, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Maxine, you heard the concerns from the residents. How would you like to respond to them? And you have 5 minutes.
Okay. One of the main concerns is that we're too large. We do comply with height. We comply with side yard and rear yard setbacks. The proposal is only 7 feet taller than the existing roof right now. In fact, the new house is actually pulling away from the rear lot line a little bit because we are removing the existing sunroom at the back and converting that to a deck. So the second floor is only over the main portion of the house and is actually further back from the property line than the existing house. Loss of privacy, we have added a privacy screen on the south side of the balcony. We have offered to reduce the size of the balcony to the neighbor to the south, but they still had concerns and they didn't think that was enough to alleviate their concerns. loss of sunlight for the neighbors behind us. As I said earlier, the roof is only 7 feet taller than the existing dwelling. This neighbor also has some very large trees in their backyard, which I think gives an awful lot of shade to their property to begin with, and I don't think our 7 feet taller house is going to have a big impact on that. Concerns regarding lot drainage, we have submitted applications to TRCA and Ravine. They do not have any concerns and support the application, so lot drainage should be pretty well the same as it is right now, because our footprint really isn't altered very much on the main floor. There were also concerns about tree protection zones, but we have submitted applications to urban forestry. We've had an arborist report making recommendations on tree protection fences and et cetera. And there won't be any excavation for any foundations in the rear yard at all. It's all just at the side, outside of the tree protection area. That's about it for my presentation.
Maxine, can I ask you a clarification question? Does your property sit lower as compared to the properties behind? Is the grade differential lower on your side?
No, we are higher.
You're higher, okay. So you're higher.
Yes.
So the concern is that the drainage will be impacting or could potentially impact the properties at the rear. So I just want to clarify one of the things to all the residents listening in is that drainage issues are unfortunately not under the purview of this committee. However, once the building permit, should this development proceed, and once the building permit drawings are submitted to the building department, at that stage, the appropriate drainage and grading reviews will be completed. And one thing I can tell you is that the idea is that any development or proposed developments shall be self-contained and will have no adverse impact on adjacent developments or existing developments as a result of the proposed development or that particular building construction. So, and that is something that is reviewed by the professionals within the city's building services department. So I can just confirm that for you, for the residents who are hearing. So unfortunately, I can't help you with the grading, but that was just, my question was just more for my understanding. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Maxine? Was there something that was missed in responding? Okay, so I see 3 hands. I'll go in the order. Member Taylor, Member Said, and then Member Nadini, please. Member Taylor, please go ahead.
So, thank you through you, Madam Chair. Maxine, can you please confirm for us with respect to variance 2, what is the existing lot coverage?
33%.
Okay, I'm having trouble seeing where the additional, 50% more coverage is coming from in your. So it's more than just putting a top on a bungalow. You're expanding the size of the building as well,
Yeah.
horizontally.
That's a good question.
So
What, to the south?
the footprint is expanded to the south, but in coverage, the cantilevered portions of the second floor are included in coverage.
Oh.
So even though the main floor footprint is not expanded very much, and we've actually taken away the sunroom at the back,
Yeah.
the second floor cantilever is included in coverage.
So that increases your coverage by 50%.
Correct. Well, yeah, I'm not sure the percentage, but.
Well, 33 to 47.2.
Right.
Yeah, 15%.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's a good question. And I see that you had a waiver for this. You did not go through a zoning review.
If I could answer that?
Yes, please.
We did go through a zoning review. The zoning review could not be completed at the time, like the one last item could not be completed on the zoning review because they wanted TRCA to confirm the location of top of bank. TRCA would not do that until we had submitted an application to TRCA. It has been confirmed and it does not impact the zoning, but that's the reason why we submitted without the complete zoning review.
Understood. And you're just going back to the notice here for there's no front yard setback variance. No, there is. So the required front yard setback is 4.9 and the proposed front yard setback is 3.73. Is that an existing situation?
Yes and no. The front yard setback is taken to, in this case, the variance is taken to the cantilevered second floor above. The front yard setback is determined by the average of the neighbors and it's taken to the main front wall. So it's not taken to the bay, the existing bay window, it's taken to the main front wall. So it seems like a larger variance than it is. We're actually, the second floor is going beyond the bay by approximately 2 feet closer to the street.
Correct. Okay, but at grade, it is maintaining its existing or current situation. It's a cantilever that is triggering that front yard setback.
Correct.
Understood. Okay. All right. It helps us visualize sort of the impact of the variances that are being requested. Okay. Okay, I'll go to Member Taylor. Do you have any follow-up, or can we proceed with the next committee member?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Don't recall, but I think it was Member Said. Member Said, you go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maxine, you heard the comments of the neighbor, and I think most of those comments, whether they are privacy or any other issues, they were directly or indirectly, they were referring to the variance number 2, which is, of course, you are asking a lot area coverage, which is many times more as allowed. One of the comment of the neighbors, they are not comfortable with that, but at the same time, the feeling is that perhaps the communication or the consultation with the neighbors was not taken place, and the neighbor mentioned that there could be one possibility that you go back to the neighbors and talk to them, and perhaps this issue, which is a kind of a overdevelopment, it's look like, could be issued to some extent. I mean, this was one of the options given by one of the speaker. How would you respond to that?
Yes, we did talk a number of times to the neighbor to the south because we know them quite well, and they obviously have the most impact because we're directly adjacent to them. It did not seem like they did express concerns about the size of the balcony and the proximity of the second floor to their lot line. We are complying with setbacks, so we weren't sure how to address that issue. The balcony, we are willing to remove that variance, but as I think I mentioned this earlier, we offer that to the neighbor to the south, and they still wanted to not support the application as a whole. So yeah, so it seemed like the balcony was the biggest issue, and we are willing to remove that variance.
So when you say you're willing to remove that variance, you're willing to remove the variance and comply with the balcony size that's permitted, correct?
Correct.
Okay, it will not result in removal of the balcony per se, but just meeting in accordance with the zoning, which is a zoning right for any property owner.
And I might add that that balcony is included in coverage too, so that actually would reduce our coverage. But I'm sorry, I don't know the percentage, so.
So it's going to affect the variance number 2 as well, right?
Yes.
Have you done your calculations that you can present to us before?
No, I'm sorry, I haven't.
Okay, Because should the committee make a decision on this application today, it would be based on the numbers that are before us, and it would not reflect the revisions
Yes.
that you've just proposed.
It would be a small percentage because it would be 3 feet by 5 feet. So really not a big percentage.
But it certainly affects the variances that will, should the committee grant the variance, it would certainly have an impact there.
Understood.
Okay, all right. Member say that you're satisfied, or is any follow-up?
I'm okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Member Ndini, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to ask two questions, and the first one is actually directed to our staff and Deputy Secretary Treasurer, in the sense that I'd like to understand if there was any updated transportation memos that had come through. I mean, from my review of everything, I don't think that there was one, and I just wanted to make sure that transportation didn't submit anything further to this, first of all, before I move to my second question.
Through the chair, transportation, the information you have in your package is the most current information. And just to confirm, transportation services on the entire agenda, they did not have any concerns on any, the only comment they have is on another application. It was one application in the entire agenda. They did not comment
Okay.
on this application, or they did not have any concerns on this application.
Okay, so that helps with one part of the variances that I had concerns about, but seeing that there's none, sometimes they do send things in at the last moment, so I just wanted to double check. And the second part of my question is directed to Maxine, the applicant, and that is around, again, variances 1 and 2. That seems to be quite a bit of confusion for a lot of folks in here. And I just wanted to hear one last time from you. Why do you see this as minor? And how do you see this as fitting in with the character of the neighborhood? You may have already explained it, but I do want to hear from you one last time before we go into committee.
Well, we feel it is minor because the lot size is fairly small compared to the neighborhood. And when you compare it to the house 3 doors down the street, it was approved for actually a larger floor space index, similar percentage. We're one of very few bungalows on that street, so I think most houses are 2 stories and a comparable size. And we think that by keeping the gable facing the street, and the wraparound roof is a feature seen on many of the houses on the street. We do conform to height. I don't feel that we're towering over anyone, mostly because we've mitigated any height, like the gable roofs, by wrapping roofs, the porch roof around the front. The cantilevers create actually a bit of shadow and delineation to the facades. I think the house itself, when you look at the square footage, is very similar to many and most houses in the neighborhood. I think this is something that looks worse on paper than it does in reality, and that's why we have to look at the lot size.
Thank you for that.
Are we good, Nadini? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Maxine, so removing the balcony from the requested variances, as you have presented to us, is a simple one. What I'm a little concerned about is it's the numeric value that would be resulting for the lot coverage as a result of a removal of this additional balcony space. Do you have a number in mind that we can, like a high, I don't know, I mean, Because if the coverage is getting affected, then we need to have a number.
Yeah, so the 15, the reduction in the balcony is 15 square feet or 1.4 meters squared. As I mentioned, it really is not a big impact on the coverage. We're at 47.2%, so I'm going to guess that we could go to 45%.
45%? Okay, all right. So just for the benefit of everyone, so item number 2 is being proposed to be revised to 45%. And how much would that be in terms of the lot area? Well, you don't have to do that, okay. The lot coverage would be 45%, and then the variance number 3 is being withdrawn. Is that correct, Maxine?
Yes.
Okay. Does that help staff? We'll put it up on the screen so that everyone can see that. And okay,
If I
I
may,
have,
Madam Chair.
yes, 2 hands up. So Member Taylor, you go ahead, and then Member McCauley. Member Taylor.
Yeah, if I may, if I may, along this line we're going here, would we not also have to adjust variance 1 for floor space index?
No.
No, why?
The balcony is not included in floor space index. It's just
Okay.
the balcony would be included in coverage.
Okay. So staff is trying to update the variance on the screen. Bear with us for a minute. We'll have it up on the screen so that everyone's crystal clear on the change, and it's all documented and recorded, and then we'll go from there. Is that stuck for you, Kelly? Perfect, thank you. Can you zoom in a bit, Kelly, so we can see? Excellent. So as you can see on your screen, item 2 or variance number 2 has been modified, and the proposed lot coverage is 45% being proposed, and then variance number 3 has been removed, and that has been presented by or confirmed by Maxine, the applicant on the application. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Maxine. All right, on that note, if there are no further questions or comments, Member McCauley, you had your hand up, right?
Yes, it was the same issue as to the overall
FSI?
FSI.
Okay. So the
If
agent
you're-
has,
if you're
yeah, the
removing some
agent
of
has
that floor
confirmed
area.
it will not be impacted.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So I will now, I would like to proceed to the committee now and take the matter into committee for discussion. Thank you, Maxine, and for all the residents who took the time to speak with us today. Members of the committee, we have the amended application before us today. You heard the concerns. Any thoughts, any comments, or are you ready with a motion? Member Said, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just just a comment before we go for the motion. What I see, thank you, Maxine, for being flexible and making a few changes there. Madam Chair, I still believe the issue remains there, as this is a small lot, which is like 328 square meter. And it's going to be covered. The lot coverage has been asked for 47% cover, which is now reduced to 45%. And I knew that this is the only thing with which the applicant do to remove the balcony and to decrease it to 2% by 2%. But at the same time, the lot is small. The development is looking like it's an overdevelopment there. And at the same time, what I am concerned is that should the committee consider to make a decision approval in this case, uh, it could set a precedent in the area for the other developments in a similar way, which is going to affect the street fabric and street character. So I have still reservations to that. I thank you to Maxine for considering it, but the overdevelopment and extensive lot coverage, uh, I think it's not going to give a positive impact in future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Can I get some clarification for you, Member State? When you say overdevelopment, what do you mean by that? Are you referring to the FSI or are you referring to the lot coverage? Because those two sort of collectively determine the overall massing and the built form. So which one are you referring to as sort of being overdevelopment?
Yes, both the factors, FSI and the lot coverage, significant, but my main concern is towards the lot coverage.
So in your opinion, the lot coverage is not minor, and in your opinion, it's not appropriate. Okay, so it's a lot coverage that's more concern to you as opposed to the FSI. If you do the math,
You're
it's
right.
approximately 2,600 square feet home, which is quite, modest in this day and age. I mean, especially when you compare with mega mansions that are being built everywhere. 2,600 square feet is quite a modest home size for a family of average size. The lot coverage, as Maxine explained, was a result. A lot of it was resulting due to the cantilevered portion. It's not so much as it's the impact at grade. So it's not at grade, but it's sort of elevated. It's lifted above at the second story. That's what adding to the additional lot coverage. And you still think that contributes to overdevelopment, that cantilever portion. Okay. Wanted to get the facts right here. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Member Taylor, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I see this as an attempt to accommodate a contemporary sized building on a small lot. And I don't have massing issues with this application.
Okay.
You know, I'm particularly influenced by the fact that it doesn't require any rear yard, side yard, or height adjustments. So, you know, by and large, it's pretty close to what's permitted as of right, with the exception of FSI and coverage. But again, it's a reasonable size home on a small lot. That's my take on it.
Okay, thank you, Member Taylor. You raise a good point. I mean, there's no reduction or variances for rear yard setbacks. It's pretty, one could say it's a small lot, but using the existing footprint, to me, that's a big advantage and a big plus point to this project. As opposed to demolition and rebuild and creating a giant development here. The character, I did a street view, Google view. The character is quite eclectic. It's a beautiful area. I must say, it's a beautiful street and also on the rear side of the property as well. But it's eclectic. It offers a variety of housing styles, bungalows and 2 stories, and because of the grade difference, it adds a lot of interest to the street as well. So there's no defined character except that it's different. It's differing. Anybody else for comments, Member Nadini?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I mean, I wanted to also share my concerns about variances 1 and 2 as well. I still share that. And even with an eclectic neighborhood, I still have to consider that the people that live there know it best. The counselor that is within that area understands the character of that area best. And from what they're telling me is that it is, even though it's not something that committee does in terms of considerations of precedent setting development, we don't consider those things, but it still seems to be not within character for that neighborhood for me. And I don't believe it to be minor.
All right.
So I take strongly what the people that actually live there have to tell me.
All right, thank you very much, Member Nadini, for making those remarks. All right, I think we've had some good discussion on this. I think we should move forward with a motion on this application. So who will put the motion forward? Member Said, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a difficult decision, but having said and taking into consideration all these circumstances, I put forward motion for refusal of this application.
Through the chair, refuse as amended.
Refuse as amended?
Thank you. Refusal as amended, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to refuse the application as amended. May I have a seconder, please? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I second that motion, as I do believe that it is not minor and not appropriate for the development of the area.
All right, and all in favor of this motion? And all opposed? So Member Taylor and myself oppose the motion. However, the motion's carried and the application has been approved. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry, Madam Chair, you said the application has been approved.
Oh, I'm sorry,
or
it
not?
has been denied. My apologies. It has been denied. I correct myself. It has been refused. I'm generally used to saying it's approved, so it was a little bit of a change. Okay, moving to our next item that was held, and I believe this is one of the last items, no, third last item. 2479 Gerard Street East, item 12. And we will speak with the agent, but I just want to call out the name of the neighbor who registered, Mark Angeli. If you're listening, please sign in and be prepared to speak in a few minutes. So Leo Mastrandria, we have your application for 2479 Gerard Street East. How would you like to proceed? Would you like a presentation or would you go right to the questions?
I believe our application is pretty straightforward. So if there's any questions, I can clarify it.
Sure. Members of the committee, do you have any questions or would you like Leo to make a presentation? I see none. All right, so Leo, I don't see any, oh, Member Macaulay.
The applicant could just comment on the height difference. He's proposing a flat roof, but with a height of 8.27 meters versus 7 meters.
Are you looking into it, Leo?
Yes?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Sorry?
Member Macaulay, can you please repeat your question?
Okay. The question is, why or what is your justification for the flat roof of 8.27 meters, whereas only 7 meters is permitted? And I see what you're really proposing here in appearance would be a 3-story building.
Yes, so our essentially, if you can pull up my presentation package, and we can start with the photos.
So that's your supporting materials?
I don't know if the members had a chance to look at my supporting material, but there are a number of 2/3-story residents in the area. If you can pull up page number 2, number 3, and these are all in the same area as our proposal. Page number 4 appears to be a real 3-story. but ours is not considered a 3-story, it's considered a 2-story. If you go to page number 5, our design is actually very similar to what's been approved at 19A and B Linden, page number 5. And page number 6, again, is a similar application. And page number 7 does appear to be 3 stories. I'd like to mention that planning did not have any concerns on this application, and our variances are also consistent with what's been approved in height in this area. We did speak to the neighbors. We did submit a few letters of support, one from the corner house on Victoria Park and one 2 doors down to the east. I'd also like to mention that our coverage is actually in keeping with the 33%, but the deck added to our coverage brings it to 38%. And if it helps our application, I could remove variance number 4, which is the building depth, which I could remove that. I'd like to remove that variance.
So removing variance number 4, which is related to the building length. So you were proposing, building depth. You were proposing 19.31, whereas the bylaw requires 19 meters as maximum. So you are removing that. Okay. Does that affect your lot coverage?
And also, I'd like to also mention that we do comply with the overall height, and we have no setback issues whatsoever, side yard, rear yard, front yard.
Okay.
And our floor space index is minor, going from 6 to 6.5, and consistent with what's been approved. And yes, if you have any further questions.
So this withdrawal of the variance related to the building depth, does it affect any other variance, Leo?
No.
Okay.
No, it does not.
Okay. All right. Any further clarification or question? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question. I just took an up and down the street Google Street View in this vicinity. I don't see anything close to 3 stories. I see bungalows, 1.5 story, very low commercial development on the north side of Gerrard. Where did your samples come from? I don't think anything's within 100 meters of this property.
Yes, behind our street is Linden, and those number 19 and number 34 Linden are directly behind us. Number 32 and 34 are directly behind us, and number 19 is on the other side of the street. And also number 2243 is just on the other side of Victoria Park. So it is all within 100 meters.
At the rear of the property, but not along Gerrard, though.
No, there hasn't been very much development there.
Or redevelopment.
Or redevelopment, yes. But behind Gerrard is Linden, which is number 30, Linton, sorry.
Yeah.
And number 32 and 34 are basically directly behind us.
Which has started to see some rebuilds. Okay. Okay, that's where your samples came from for the flat roofs.
Correct.
So it's the street behind, Member Taylor.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. My definition of immediate context is within the block on both sides of the subject street. So I'm not influenced by, personally, I'm not influenced by precedents that are not on Gerrard Street within this block on the north or south side. That's just my own personal feeling.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, great. Any more questions? Okay. So let's move to speaking with our neighbor. So can we have Mark Angeli, please? Hello, Mark.
Hi.
Hi, Mark. So you've registered to speak with us on this application. You have 5 minutes, and please go ahead.
I have more questions. I don't really have an actual. I assume that this application is approval based on urban forestry approval. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
Okay.
I can confirm that Urban Forestry has reviewed this application, and they have provided the committee with some conditions that should the committee approve it. There are 2 conditions that have been requested to be added to the decision.
And what was that? Because
And
I
what-
haven't been. Because he never met. He said that they met with us, but they've never met with us immediate neighbors. She's avoided a couple of us because the house hasn't been disrepair for quite a while and had some issues. So I have no issues with the size variance, although her property now sits on property lines and she's going to have to deal with some power issues and stuff like that. That's fine. The more problematic is that I have 25-meter tall elms in my backyard, and if they're doing any planned deep excavations, they could be harm to those 2 trees. And they haven't made any attempt on my end to do what's going on. They were saying that they potentially needed to come down to another neighbor, but there's been no actually output towards me at all. They're fully on my property. I think there's like a small bit of it going on the other end of it. There's also a lower structure which they're removing, which is their shed, which sits on the property and it's got 2 Manitoba maples just basically growing out of it. That's technically on mine and her property. Those I have no problem with removal, but there's actually been no petition that I can see or any arborist that's come out for it. And there's no provision for fencing or any sort of privacy to return the privacy that they'll actually be removing once they remove that building and in there. So it's been a limited petition, so there's not a lot of information in it for me. I don't see half of there. By the way, the first picture that you've seen on the house immediately to the purple house. I'm 2481 Gerard. So
Understood.
I'm immediately east. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I even have no issues with the height variance because it actually gives me a bit more privacy on my
Okay.
side window. But so yeah, other than that, I'm more power to Pat to do this. But the issue is that I'm more concerned about the trees on our setup. And she has, I mean, it's a weird property. I believe that the property is divided years and years ago into 2 houses, and that's why she's got this very strange squeezed in building in between very small property lines. And she's impinging basically on 2 properties, and they're trying to reconcile that difference with this house, which is fine. But as one of the members has mentioned, it's technically a 3-story house now instead of a 2-story, which is where they're proposing. And even though it's not been mentioned, she has mentioned that she will be living in the basement and potentially renting the 2 top. One of the other stories that are going, because it was a rental property for the last 15 years that I've lived there. So, and it's been abandoned for 2. So, yeah. So there's been a few squatters and a few other issues. So I'm more concerned. So if I don't mind if the committee approves whatever the initial smaller structure, whatever's going to go in. I just want to make sure that it is conditional on the forestry variance because there's right now nothing to do. And those 2 elms are so tall that it'd be quite a financial burden to remove them to the point of where, I mean, we had one that was half the size that we just spent $5,000 on. So to remove those 2, and if they were going to be done at her cost, which we may or may not agree to, since they are on my property, it would be cost prohibitive, at least for me. But so that's what I mean. It could stop this property actually being built.
Okay.
So yeah, and if they're doing extensive excavations to the basement, they could potentially damage the root structure of these 2 large elms, and they're one of the largest trees in the neighborhood.
Okay. So great comments. Thank you very much, Mark. I do agree with you. So, and it's great to hear that you're not, it's not about the development, it's trying to protect the trees that are on the property. We can certainly let the agent Leo explain to us in more detail about the trees. But I would like to mention that we do have an arborist report that was submitted, and I believe it was available on the AIC as well for additional materials to be reviewed. But it is in our package and we've reviewed it, and I'm assuming the city staff or the urban forestry have also have reviewed it. And I guess based on that, they have provided their conditions. So I will certainly request you to address the tree comments and to tell us what exactly is going on. But thank you for taking the time to speak with us. And I think you had a question around what are those two conditions. So just looking at the conditions, condition number 2 and 3. So there's a condition that the applicant would submit a application for a permit to injure or remove a tree. So if there's any private tree on the property and if the intent is to remove it, that they obtain the permit from the urban forestry department. And the urban forestry has also asked for additional street trees on the property. So one street tree as part of this development. So that would go in the public boulevard. Okay? But as I said, we'll go back to Leo and get some clarification on what trees are being removed. And for that, I would request staff to bring up the arborist report. There's a tree preservation plan on it that shows all the elms on the site. And so I think it'll be easier for us to review that together. Thank you so much, Mark. And we'll have Leo back, please.
Yes, so we did hire an arborist to provide a report and recommend removal and preservation of certain trees. We will be dealing with the urban forestry department to see, because there are a number of options if they don't allow us to remove the trees, or if they do allow us to remove the trees, it would be at our expense. But we haven't submitted the application yet, only because we were waiting for approval from the Committee of Adjustment. And once that's given, then we would proceed dealing with the Forestry Department to see what their recommendations are and abide by what they would make us do.
So just bear with me. Kelly, are you bringing up the arborist or the tree protection plan? Can you just pull it up on the screen, please? The tree protection plan. It is page number 487 of the PDF. It's not the arborist report. It was separate on the agenda. Oh, you have it separately? Okay. It's not working? Okay, so we're having some technical issues. So while the staff is pulling it up, I just want to show or discuss the plan that is the tree protection plan. It shows five trees. There's one or two actually that appear to be on the neighboring property and two which are very close to the property line, to the neighbor at 2481. So Leo, which ones are those trees? B1, B2, B3, and B4? And why are they crossed? Are they being removed?
Well, they're being proposed to be removed, but as I said, this application has not been submitted to forestry yet. And there are options that we've come across over the years to, if they do not allow us to remove those trees, that maybe we could do some sort of move in our basement plan so that the excavation is not in the protection zone, and we would revise our application to injure as opposed to remove. And potentially there are options, like one would be to move in our basement foundation wall and cantilever our ground floor. The other option is to provide what they call a grade beam, which does not affect any excavation. So I think if you made it a condition to deal with the urban forestry department, I believe we can come up to a resolution that would be satisfactory to everyone.
Okay, all right. So you heard the neighbor's concerns, you heard about the trees on his property and the impacts. I'm sure there will be measures put in place to, there we go. So there's the trees on the neighbor's property and then 2 trees right on the mutual lot line. Okay. They're all shown as being removed, so this is why I was a little confused that if they're on the neighbor's property, then why are they being shown to be removed? Especially B1 and B4.
This is a preliminary report from the arborist, is what his recommendations are. Again, we do need to submit this to the forestry department.
Okay.
And they will come up with their own recommendations, and we will accommodate it.
Sounds good. And at that point, I would suggest, Leo, that you speak with the neighbor as well, and so that he's apprised of all the preservation measures that need to be in place or would be there to protect the trees on the adjacent property. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Those were my questions. Members of the committee, do you have any more questions? Okay, I see none. All right, thank you very much, Leo. We will now move into committee and proceed with a decision on this application. Members of the committee, any comments? Okay, I see none. If there are no comments, can I please have a motion on this application? Member Nadini, go ahead, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The concerns from the debutante around the trees, I think all that will be collected through a condition of forestry, so I'm not so concerned about that. So what I would say is that just based on this application, what I've seen and the explanations provided by the applicant here today, I motion to approve this application. And it will be subject to what I understood or heard at the beginning was changes made by the applicant here today, and that variance number 4 will be removed, and making this subject to forestry. I believe in this way it does meet the 4 tests, and that's my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nadini. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the application as amended, subject to conditions of urban forestry. May I have a seconder? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I second that motion.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been approved as amended.
Thank you.
Okay, we now go to our next item that was held. It is item 15, and item 15 is 75 Fairwood Crescent. Can we have the agent, Shahid Nanavati, please? And while Shahid's coming online,
And
I'm going to request the neighbors to please prepare to speak. Hello, good afternoon.
hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but there's a lot of feedback.
Oh, how is it? Is it better now?
Well, we'll see how it goes. It's better, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so Shahid, we have your application before us. It's item 15 for 75 Fairwood Crescent. And your application is seeking to construct a rear and second story addition to an existing dwelling. And for that purpose, you are requesting 6 variances. Now, do you want to present or do you want to go right into the questions?
I'll go right into the questions because I've given my presentation to the committee.
All right. You will go right to the question. So, members of the committee, do you have any questions for Shahid at this time? Okay. All right, Shahid, so we don't have any comment or questions. Oh, Mohammed does? I didn't see him. Oh, Mohammed, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Shahid, I can see you're bringing this property very close to the Morningside Avenue. How you compare this setback from the street center line? I mean, the comparison of the properties on both the side of your property.
Right. I did give a presentation, but it probably went a little late. It's in the brochure that's available to the public. Uh, my supporting document shows that this is not Morningside Avenue. This is Morningside Service Road, and this service road is a small strip of less than maybe 70, 80 meters, and it starts and ends at Fairwood Crescent. So it's just a small strip which is running parallel to Morning Crescent and is about 40 feet above Morning Crescent. So if you look at the Google image as well, and if you go to the satellite plan, this is a small branching street called Morningside Service Road.
Yes, it is a
That's right.
service road, you're right. It's actually better shown, yeah, it's shown there, right there. Right there. So it's not it's not the major Morningside Avenue, it's a service road.
Exactly. And I think the city has interpreted taking Morningside Avenue and this being as part of it.
This could be a minor error, you mean, in the variance number one?
It could be an error, but the thing is that when we were discussing at the between the planners, they said that it will come up at the Committee of Adjustments, and or you can explain it to them that this is not something that we are offending the code by.
So essentially, it
Okay,
meets the
thank you very
notification
much,
requirement. It meets the notification requirement. It's not a major error that will constitute a new notice, so it's fine. The clarification has been provided.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Member Said?
I'm okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, we have two hands up, Member Macaulay and then Member Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just a quick question. I know Morningside has a difference of elevation, and is that why we have a Morningside and a Morningside service road, that the service road does not connect to Morningside Avenue because of the grade difference?
That's right. So the thing is that it is just running parallel, and because the city road system naming goes, any street that is parallel and basically servicing the homes is taken as that is along the trunk road is taken as a service road.
And so the city planner still required a setback from Morningside Service Road or Morningside right away?
Morningside Avenue. So you can see on the Google itself, it is far, far more than what we need over there.
All right, thank you.
We're good. Okay, thank you very much. Now, can we, okay, Member Taylor, yes, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I have a question about variance 5. Your platforms, second-story platforms, one of them is more than 5 times larger than permitted by zoning, and the other is almost 7 times larger. Could you justify, rationalize, or explain the need for such large balconies?
Right. The first thing that you'll observe on our site plan is that we have a swimming pool over there. The family has got 2 children, and grandparents are there as well. We are trying to keep as much as softscape over there on the existing property at the back, and if at all we had any for the extra area for the kids to or the people to assemble, or a social area as you may call, we would have to give up quite a lot of that softscape as well. So what we plan to do is, because there's an existing deck, we would have another approach through that existing deck onto the second floor, give a good view to the swimming pool and the kids in the backyard as well. And if you look at the front side on the Morningside Avenue, we have a scope over the garage of having a terrace. So this is accidental. It is not planned, a planned terrace. So if at all the lady wants to have lots of vegetation over there to prevent the sound of the cars passing by. So she said that I love to have a terrace over there, have lots of plants, and muffle up the sound over there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see more hands up. Okay. We'll move to our first neighbor who has signed up to speak, and that is Nicole Chang Ozum. Can we have Nicole Chang Ozum? Okay, so Nicole has not signed in. We will move to our next speaker, Taimur Ozum. Taimur, are you with us?
Hello.
Yes, hello, Taimur.
So just to let you know, Nicole is sitting with me as well. We're together, but we just signed up on the one email to make things easier.
Okay,
Hi,
all right.
hi.
Hi.
We only have one computer, so it didn't make sense to have two separate ones going at the same time.
I totally hear you. No problem there at all. So, Taimur, how would you like to proceed? Are you going to be speaking separately, or are the two will be speaking as like there will be one spokesperson?
Nicole can speak.
I'm gonna start off. So this is our first time doing this this committee, and okay, right, 5 minutes. So we are open to the renovation, and I'm really glad that the committee brought up the two variances that we had some questions about. So on the map, it is very misleading, that Morningside Service Road. We were told that originally in the 50s and 60s that Morningside was above here. And then they made the bridge, and that's why it's now called Morningside Service Road. So we do sit above Morningside, and there's this berm.
All our fronts were.
And we are on the, in the picture, in the map, it makes it seem as if it's a two-way traffic road, but it is a single car laneway. So everyone, all those large trucks and garbage trucks, any kind of service, city service vehicle has to carefully go through. I think if you, and I understand I've been watching through all your other committee meetings, if you actually Googled it, you'll get a better view and idea of what that laneway looks like. So we are 365 Morningside, we're 2 houses away. And we just wanted to know, from that first variance, you said that you have to, you're 22 meters from the center of Morningside Avenue. They've reduced it now to 10. So which means they're jutting out their house closer to Morningside Service Road. We just call it our laneway. So we wanted to know how much of that really, in reality, how close are they going to be to that lane?
Okay, so I'm going to request staff to bring up the site plan, although the agent will respond to it. But just so that you're speaking, you can refer to the areas that you're talking about, okay? Sorry.
Okay.
But carry on. We're listening.
Okay, so that was the one question with the variance one, which one of your committee members had already brought up. And then variance 5. At first, we weren't able to find the pictures of the final home, so we were wondering, what is that on variance 5? Is that 2 large turrets on the roof? But from the picture, we see that it's a flat roof building home, and it's 2 platforms that are, as you noted, that are huge, because it's 4 square meters that you are allowed. The agent said that the platform that is to the west side towards Morningside, she wants the owner or the person doing the renovation, it's actually the daughter, she wants a larger terrace so that she could put some plants on. But if the building is really close to the street, to our laneway, we're just going to be looking at this building and laneway, right? We have 3 kids, they're teenagers. Other neighbor has a 4-year-old. We've got a dog. Our other neighbor has a dog. We've got a new. Sorry. Okay. It's just kind of giving you a picture of our laneway, because it's a very unusual street in the city of Toronto. So those are the 2 main variances that we wanted your input on.
I think for me, the bigger one is in the drawings. It shows a flat roof. do they have the ability of changing that to a pitched roof, or does it have to stay as a flat roof? Either way is fine. It's just looking at it from, from the west to east sort of view of how much shade is going to be cast by it with a taller roof.
So a flat roof or a pitched roof is not something that we mandate here, but that is more the choice of the homeowner or the designer to propose that. It's not a requirement. But should there be a pitch roof, they have to meet some height restrictions or regulations for that type of roof style. And should someone wish to proceed with a flat roof, there are separate regulations and requirements for that type of roof. So it depends on which roof, and there's no like required type required for any particular street. In this case, they want to do a flat roof, so they have to conform to the bylaws.
Because it's not a variance, then I would assume that they are within the bylaw limits of the height of a flat roof.
I would like to say yes.
Would that-
If it's not on the application, if it's not on the notice, then clearly it's not required, at least not something that's before the committee today. Should in the future that becomes a problem, and if they do not comply, they will have to come back to the committee again. But at this point, we can only comment on what is before us today.
Okay.
Okay, and
The last question. Sorry, the last question I have really doesn't necessarily apply only to this project, but years ago, like about 4 years ago, a developer wanted to buy all the houses on the laneway and develop the whole street. In the process of going through you guys, it came out that there's potential archaeological value here, and it put an end to that whole project. Does that still apply anymore, or is that kind of something that was just put on certain lots?
so
Because we back off onto the ravine on Morningside Park and U of T.
So Timur, those are matters that are beyond the jurisdiction of this committee. Through the
Right.
development process, if a archaeological assessment is required for any development application, it is required and the city staff require it and it's been provided. But I can't tell you whether for this application one was provided, nor is it under my jurisdiction here at the committee. So I would not be able to comment on it. You may want to talk to or contact the city department directly and get that clarification.
Right. Cool. Other than that, it's a beautiful house. I think it'll look nice.
Excellent. So we'll get the answers from Shahid for the questions that you've raised. In particular, how close the building will be from the Morningside Avenue or the service road. We'll get that clarification from Shahid. Okay. Members of the committee, before the neighbors go, any questions for them? Thank you. All right. So thank you very much, Taimur and Nicole, for taking the time to speak with us. We will now go back to Shahid. Shahid, you heard the concerns. I think it was not a lot of
Yes.
concerns as opposed to some clarification and questions. So could you please provide a response?
Sure, let me do that. We did take into consideration the setback on the Morningside Drive, and although Nicole is mentioning and Temur is mentioning that the setback is going to affect the kids playing in that vicinity, their own house itself has got very little setback compared to the setback that we are giving. It is less than half the setback, their existing setback. If you look at that Google image which you had just brought up before, the previous time that you had brought up the Google image with the corner lot. So if you look at that, our setback, we have tried to give maximum setback. The reason why this particular setback is enough is because it's in the corner area, and we to just see that we give maximum amount of green space over there, we brought the driveway onto this side of the street. So that is the main purpose of it. And it can be given at the front on the Fairwood Crescent, but then it will damage a lot of green space over there for us.
So what is the, I know staff's having some trouble in going back and forth because of some computer glitches here, but right now, and I wish I could sort of show it on the screen as well. The question was, how close are you coming
It is.
to, as compared to the existing
Oh, I
building?
can give you that number.
Yes, please.
I can give you that number right now. We are. Give me 1 second.
Where are you today and how close are you coming? That was the question.
Yes, I'll give you that in a second. We are 7.4 meters from the street, and the 365 Morningside Avenue house of Nicole and the Temur is approximately 4.5 meters.
Okay, so they're closer to your current house, closer to the street than the current location of your house. And when you're bringing it forward to towards Morningside frontage, the setback would be?
The setback would be 7.41 meters.
To Morningside or to your property line?
Yes, to the Morningside. Morningside, the street that is abutting us, that's a Morningside service road.
Okay, well, I see it a little different on the plan. So right now, so based on the revised plans, you would be at 4.87 to your property line. So basically, you're coming a little closer, but you're still in line with your neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Because as you
Yes, ma'am.
said, 365 Morningside is at 4.5 approximately, so you'll be at 4.7. So Nicole
Approximately,
and
yes.
Timur, if you're listening, the proposed development would be sort of in line approximately to your house along the street. Okay? All right. Anything else that you would like to add, Shahid? What about, I think the question was raised around the terrace, or the size of the terrace fronting the building?
Yes, ma'am. So my basic request was to allow the kids being seen from the second floor while they are swimming in the pool over there and being watched by grandparents as well. And definitely that buffering would be required in the terrace. It's a good idea to have that buffering with lots of trees over there, potted plants maybe, but they will definitely help.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, do you have any questions or clarification? Okay, none. All right, thank you, Shahid, for taking the time to meet with us and explaining your explaining your application. We now take the matter into committee.
Thank you, ma'am.
Committee members, any thoughts, or are we ready with a motion? We did have two conditions of urban forestry. One condition of urban forestry. And that was to obtain a permit to injure or remove a tree, right? All right. A motion, please. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've had a good explanation as to what is being proposed here. And thanks to both the residents and the applicant as to clarifying it. I'm prepared to put forth a motion for approval of these variances. They are very minor. They appear to be appropriate for the development of the area. And there are conditions of urban forestry, I believe.
Excellent. Can I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion.
And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried and the application has been approved, subject to conditions. Thank you very much. And we now move to our last item for the morning session that was held for discussion, and that is 67 Chandler Drive. This is item 17. I know we had some discussion, and I recommended to hold it off until for further discussion so that we could get additional clarification on the proposal. So can we have Rock Kim, please?
Hi, this is Rock.
Hello, Rock. So thank you for staying with us. Would you like to offer any comments at this time, or would you like to go into the questions?
Yeah, I like to, I've been talking to the owner actually. He made the front line of the stone. Actually, he was changing the front water line, and then the bylaw officer was at the site, and then he made a pink spray paint at the front. That's the line limitation that he can make the front stone walkway. So that's how they build up to that line. And then
Sorry, which variance is related to that particular discussion or matter that you're
yeah,
raising?
I'm talking about the front landscape. There is a stone walkway, right? There is a front landscape area.
The
Is
front
left.
landscaped area, yes, that is,
Yes.
you're proposing
Then
it to be
we have the
36%, yes?
yes, and then there is a front line. That's what the bylaw officer was made a pink spray paint, and then that's what he made it, and then up to that line. And then the number has been actually 36% seems really small, but we have the driveway, single driveway. Driveway is not part of the front landscape area. So if you have the double driveway, it'll go up to 50, 60. So if you look at the front of the house, if you look at the Google Map, 70 and 72 has the two driveway, and then especially 72 has similar as what they have right now. And
So,
then
so
he was
basically,
talking to the
sorry for interrupting, but I just want to clarify. So the stone
Yeah.
walkway that is proposed there, that does not constitute
Yeah.
landscaping, and hence it is impacting your front yard soft landscaping, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right, you carry on now.
Yeah, and then he talked to all the neighbors, and then there was no complaining what has been done right now.
Okay, so that is related to your variance for number one, which was the front yard landscaping. Okay. So let's go to the committee members. I think there were some concerns and questions that were being brought up this morning. So let's go to committee members. Who would like to go first? Member Nandini, please go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I know that I was moving forward with a decision at that time, and I'm really grateful that Madam Chair stood this down for us to have a chance to discuss. And through that, I really wanted to consider this even more closely. So with respect to the stone landscaping, are you saying that this is not concrete? Are you saying that water does get absorbed beneath this? It is permeable in that sense? So that's my first question, and I might have a couple others after that, but if you could respond to that first, please.
The stone, what they have is a stone block right now. I want you to show the picture. Actually, I sent it to the planner, the existing what they have.
So the question was, is that semi-permeable or permeable in any way?
Honestly, I'm not sure if it's permeable blocks or not.
I guess what I'm asking is, when you say stone, I wondered if it was sort of the pebbles or the gravel that you fill the area with, or they're actually concrete blocks that you've said. And you know, I have to admit, you know, I'm coming in from an environmental background as well, and so this does provide some concern, not so much variance number 2, but variance number 1, where you've honestly and appreciatively, to say that, admitted that this you know, townhouse, it's been, you know, already completed. So I'm just looking for ways to help me understand this a bit better, to move towards a decision of accepting it. So hence the reason for my questions around this. can you describe what that stone looks like, please?
Yeah, if you're saying that way, actually this is permeable. There's a gravel and then stone at the top. It's not like a concrete block all the way around. Not poured
Okay,
concrete. It's
so it's not like a sidewalk, in
yes,
other words, right?
that's right. Yes.
Okay, so that answers and it helps my question a lot. I'm also of heir to, there's a certain level of compassion that we must have as committee members, and I wanted to know if there's anything you'd like to share with the committee around why this ended up getting built in advance of approvals. Was there something that was pressing? What explanation could you provide so that it could help us from a compassionate perspective as well?
Hello?
I'm sorry, that was a question or?
That's a question, yes. So could you, as Member Nadini mentioned, could you please sort of clarify as to why this was constructed without getting the approvals? Was there a pressing reason for that?
They was trying to build a walkway at the front, but a little bit of front more. That the owner just look at the front of the house and then they did it. So owner just think that it's allowed for that way.
Madam Chair, I have a question with this stone walk. What is the purpose of this stonework? Are they looking at it as a terrace or is it just a way of not having to cut the grass?
It's not a terrace. It's just walkway. Actually, it's very lower than the front, the porch area. So their sideways only driveway is very narrow to the back way. So they want to make the front and or the other side too.
So I think it was a combination of not knowing and just some, preference of the resident or the owner to do that. Okay. I'm looking at the street here and it's quite consistent with green landscaping all across, it's like quite standard there, like square green patch and then a drive-in and a square green patch. So yes, it certainly interrupts the streetscape. It certainly, removes that soft landscaping from the street. But I see across the street, there's like a wider driveway as well. Like again, it's a mixed bag of things in along the street as well. Member Said, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering, like Member Nadini mentioned very right, she was trying to find out to help this out if this stonework is still semi-permeable. I was just wondering if this question go to the applicant and see if it is not the stonework, could that be converted or could it be flexible to make some changes and improvements in that to make it a semi-permeable?
Yes,
So what does that mean, Rock?
You can fix that. You can fix the stone to the semi permeable for the blocks. Change the blocks.
So you're suggesting that you will fix it, and again, I'm not a construction person, but you'd probably have to rip out all of that and reconstruct it with a permeable material. You understand that?
Permeable material. We can change that, but at the front only, not all the other side, right?
We're talking about the front right now. So the stone
Yes.
walkway, you are prepared to remove all of that and replace with some permeable material?
Yeah.
Okay. Just remind me, what is there right now? So it's stone, but you said something about gravel or something.
Underneath.
Oh, underneath the base. Okay. And then the stone is sort of, it's unit paved or like, is it, what kind of? It's
stone blocks.
Stone blocks.
Every block. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Members of the committee, any further questions? Member Taylor? And then staff?
Yeah, I would like to see and hear the explanation for the rear yard landscaping situation.
Okay. Rock, please go ahead.
We're asking, sorry, 40% of the rear yard landscaping area. The requirement is 50%. I think that's a minor variance for that.
Yes, so can you tell me, I'm presuming that work was undertaken in the front yard, perhaps without any knowledge of the requirements. Was there a similar situation in the rear yard? From what I'm looking at, what has been added? Everything marked stone paving, is that new?
Yeah, it's like a blocking pavement.
So a few years ago, you had to walk across the lawn to that shed? And then they improved it by putting in stone paving? Is that what happened?
Really at the back side is the existing pavement. But they want to keep the existing as it is.
So everything marked stone paving there, that's not new work. That's long been in existence?
Yeah, honestly, about half of way is existing. The back side of the half of way existing. And then
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. Oh, Member Macaulay. Member Macaulay, you're on mute.
It's a question to the applicant. There's stone paving in the front yard where it should be porous material in not stone in the front yard, and you've got stone in the rear yard. I assume it was done about the same time. So the overall objective is to provide soft landscaping to allow the water to infiltrate into the ground and not have runoff and not have hard surfaces. If our objective is to increase the amount of landscaping that is soft landscaping, allows the water to go through, doesn't have to be grass, it could be material that allows the water to go through, which would be preferable, the front or the rear?
we can remove the real part, more landscaping, of course.
You can remove the rear?
I mean, we can make the more landscaping at the rear.
Because you're 40% landscaping versus 50%. So you could go to 50% landscaping in the rear.
Yes, if you're really,
And if you did it in the front yard, how much landscaping would you be able to provide?
75% of the landscape without the driveway part.
Are we talking about the rear? Okay.
Provide.
So here's what I'm thinking, Member Macaulay, if you allow me. I think
Sure.
there's some willingness on part of the applicant to make some changes. I'm assuming he also has to speak with the owner to commit to those changes, right? He's heard the committee's concerns today. I'm suggesting, throwing it out to everyone, would it be prudent to defer this application to allow more time to the applicant to go back, consider our concerns, speak with the owner, and come back with a revised application should he wishes to revise it. Okay, but I'll have to get that confirmation from the applicant or the agent as well. So Rock, would it be helpful if you were to get a deferral on this application and go back and discuss this with the owner and see what you can do, and also how it's going to affect or change your variances? Would that something that you would have an appetite for?
They've been already done all the landscaping and then the block works, but the rear yard part we can reduce it if you have to up to the 50% and get rid of the variances. But the front part they already did it, so we want to get the decision today.
But I thought you were open to
if
making
it's
the changes
possible.
at the front as well, to change it to permeable. So has that been discussed with your owner? I'm just saying it, nor that it is my business, but there's going to be cost involved in ripping and replacement. Has that been discussed with your owner?
No, owner wants to get actually.
The owner wants to do what?
Owner wants to keep the existing as it is, but the front part of the landscape, you have to change only the front of the house part. If you have to fix it, and then we have to fix it, and then I think he will be agree with that one.
Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm sensing too much uncertainty about what may or may not happen if we defer this. My feeling right now is that this application should be refused, giving the applicant an opportunity to redress, fully restore the landscaping situation in the front and the rear. I feel uncomfortable deferring. I mean, if we defer it and they address everything to the zoning standards, they won't come back. So I think our clear path to take here is to refuse this and let the applicant and his agent deal with how to, if they wish to. Doesn't sound like they wish to redress the front. So if that's the case, I feel we should refuse the application.
Sure, I'm in the committee's hand, however committee wishes to pursue this or take this forward. Okay, so I think we've taken I just want to, sorry, go ahead, Member Taylor.
Oh, no, sorry, I was accepting your invitation for a motion.
Okay, no, I want to close the loop and get into the committee first. So Rock, it appears that, the committee would like to proceed with a decision on the application, and that's where we're heading, okay? Do you have any closing remarks?
Okay. No, it's okay.
Okay, all right. Committee members, take the matter into committee now. Member Taylor, if you're ready with a motion, please proceed. Please go ahead.
Okay, I guess if we go back to our first principle of dealing with what's before us, we have variances to front yard landscaping. I find them to be very problematic from an environmental point of view. There could be ways to redress or resolve the issues, but I don't think we should get mired in a deferral or a conditional approval on this. I think a straightforward approach would be to deal with what we have, which is something which in my mind is not acceptable. It doesn't meet the 4 tests, and I move refusal.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to refuse the application. Seconder, Member Macaulay?
I second that motion. I think it's a clear indication of where we're going, that we refuse the application and they can determine what steps they want to take next.
Thank you. And Member Macaulay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been refused. Thank you. And
thank
that
you.
brings us to the end of our morning items for the morning agenda. Staff?
Through the chair, well, actually, to the viewers, We will be beginning our afternoon session. If members of the public are viewing on YouTube, you will need to switch to the PM stream. Through the chair, it's 1:42. We're running a little bit behind schedule. Does the panel wish to take a break before we start the afternoon session?
I'd like to take a 10-minute break, if that's okay with the rest of the committee. Okay, all right. Thank you. So we take a 10-minute break. To round it up, let's resume at 1:55, maybe? Right? It's 1:42 right now. Oh, just 2 o'clock? Okay, might get 2 o'clock then. So 2 o'clock. Get bonus points here. 2 o'clock. So for all those who are listening, we will be coming back or resuming our session after, or not resuming, we will do our afternoon session starting at 2 p.m. Thank you.